All right. Today. So this will be an earlier live. Probably not going to be going for that long. By all means, join if you're interested. The last one is very long. Um, it was first an abortion discussion. Then it was turned into rights. I'm not really going to probably do that anymore. Because somebody made an argument for that. It was very chaotic yesterday. It's on YouTube. It's on my bio. The link is in my bio. I'm making a new prompt. I want these to be civilized, of course. Um, I'll allow. I will allow an open panel, right? But I don't want 15 people jumping at once. It's like people have a very misconstrued idea of what an open panel means, right? Open panel does not mean 65 people talk at the same time. That's not what that means. Okay. So I had to end the live. He was getting. It was like 6 in the morning. So I had to end it. I'm waiting for someone to make a new prompt. Hello, Elizabeth. Yeah, I'm doing a live earlier. Um, so yeah, I want to see how this works out because I've been going live like at late at night. So I'm trying to do one in the afternoon for a little bit. Waiting for a new prompt.
What's
Hello.
up?
How you doing?
Watching my kids in the pool.
Nice.
Yeah,
It
set it
was.
up for them.
Yeah, I wanted to do one earlier. And see how it works out. It was pretty chaotic yesterday.
I left. I don't know what's going on with all the drama and bullshit, but I ain't about it.
Yeah, I don't want to really bring it into the. It's on my YouTube video. It's on my YouTube channel. The recording yesterday. It was crazy. Um, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I can let Avani back up unless he apologizes. I doubt that.
Well, as far as I know, Tony and I know especially with Bunny that they're on our side. So I don't know what's with this fucking whole fighting.
Yeah, I specifically do not want to entertain that. People are not really accepting my authority in this live.
Hey guys,
All right.
What's up, Mr. Mim?
how you doing?
Hi.
Oh, I'm turning the water off because the pool is filled, and my almost 3-year-old is trying to throw water at everybody.
The water never hurt anyone.
Well, no, she's trying to put the hose right on him as it's full blast.
That's awesome. Yeah, give a 3-year-old a water hose is like giving a chimpanzee an AK.
Hey, Serenity. Daddy's gonna take this out. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, I kind of been stepping away just because from the whole pro-choice thing, just because it was starting to piss me off.
You need a break every now and then, man. These people will make you nuts.
Well, it's so for me, I know what it's like to lose a child. And when people start getting down into these fucking far down philosophical bullshits to validate their reason to allow for the unalignment of children, I'm like, you know,
They can't help but die on like the worst hills
Right.
It's
that are
it's
so
awful.
insulting to kids and the disabled. Or like, and they end up being the worst bigots of all.
Bubba, I am so sorry. I don't know like how recent that was. Coming from somebody who is familiar with that pain, I am so sorry.
it's I the way I see it now is it is what it is. It was God's plan, and you know, I hope I'll see her again. I'm kind of like emotionless to it, I guess you could say. Like I kind of shut things off to it, just because there's not much hope for people.
Right.
Well, let me correct that. That there's not much help for men.
There's none.
I'm aware, and it's awful. My husband's been dealing with it.
Yeah, mine was back in 2019.
I hope you have a better time healing.
I don't know how you could.
It's hard. Man, I still fucking cry. Last time I was up on Alive with Protect, I was pregnant. I'd found out during that week, and I miscarried after knowing for 6 days, and it's
I'm sorry.
no. It's like it's a healing process. It's and this isn't what this is about, but
Yeah, it's harder for women because they feel like their body is failing to do what it's meant to do.
it's literally my thought process.
All right, we have okay. The first guy, the guy on the left's not loading in, but Horizon. What is your age and what is your stance?
I'm 29. I'm pro-choice.
All right, you guys can take this.
Why are you pro-choice?
Why am I pro-choice?
Yeah.
Because I believe in a woman's right to choose.
Do you believe in human rights?
I do. Do you think a zygote is a human?
Yes.
Yes.
Where do you get your human rights from? Where do they come from?
So when someone with an IUD, that actually kills a zygote. Technically
we're against
speaking,
that.
are they guilty of murder?
Hey.
Yes.
Hold on. So here's the thing, Horizon. You need to use TikTok friendly language, otherwise you're gonna get this taken down. And I honestly think that's part of your review.
Just spell the word that I was supposed to say differently.
So
I don't
you
know
have
which
to say
one.
unalive. You have to say put an S.
All right, unalive's a zygote. Is that schmurder?
Manslaughter.
Yes.
Well, it has to be the intent to do so. So you
Yeah.
don't-
So schmurder is just the unjust unaliving of an innocent person.
Knowingly.
Like, yeah.
So if the woman who has the IUD knows that that's going to happen, you think she should be in prison?
Yeah.
Well, she should know that the copper IUD does not prevent fertilization, but it does prevent implantation. So,
What do you think the sentence should be for that? The prison sentence?
I think it should be the same as in any other case.
Well,
You can't see, but this is where you guys get in trouble because this is bad faith. You don't actually believe that. There's no way you can.
let me answer the
Actually, I do.
question. Wait, hold on.
I
Let me answer
actually
the-
do.
Wait, let me answer the question.
It's bad faith.
If you had the technology to find out that a conception occurred, right, then that's one thing. But we don't have that technology. So how in the world would you know that they were pregnant and the IUD caused the zygote to not attach into the uterus?
Well, I personally just want to ban the copper IUDs.
Yeah.
But for Horizon, I absolutely do believe that we should criminalize any woman who has an abortion, and it should carry the same weight as anyone who murders somebody.
Okay, well, so
Whether
I've
that's
heard this
10
argument.
years
This
or
is
whether
generally
that's
the more
life.
unhinged one. Usually, what they say is that it's they've been brainwashed by society and that it's the doctor's fault. But you're actually saying that they should that they are equivalent.
Wait,
morally
hold
equivalent.
on. Why are we?
Smarter.
Why is he pivoting our stance? We're supposed to be investigating yours. Like, why are we
Well,
doing
but
This is the
the whole
stance.
thing. This is
You
what's
believe
funny.
that's a human.
Well,
this is
so
your
here-
no,
Horizon-
no.
It is
hold
a
on,
human.
Bubba,
Hold on, Horizon.
hold on.
Horizon. I got a
Wait,
question
hold on,
for
hold on.
you,
Who's
right?
just talking? Hold
You guys
on.
have too many people talking at once.
Hold on, who's just talking? Why are you pro-choice? Why are you asking us our stance? You can continue, Bubba.
I already told you why. Because I believe in a woman's right to choose, and I don't believe it's a human life.
Yeah, define.
I
a right.
wanted to press you
hold
on
on, hold on. Can you define what a right is?
All right. Is this Jordan Peterson talking?
Yes.
Hmm.
Wait.
I mean, you brought up rights. We didn't.
Wait. You're claiming this is a right. You don't know what a right is?
Well, do you want me to give you a dictionary definition of a right? Because
Yes.
I haven't had it memorized off the top of my
Yes.
head. No, I'm using
Well, the
word
definition
colloquially.
you're working with is what we want to know. What is
Okay.
the definition of right that you just brought up the word? We didn't bring it up.
A right? Yes, I know. Okay. So I don't expect you to have dictionary definitions ready for every term you use. That's not how English people speak.
Well, do you not know what it means? Why? Are you
No, I
using
know what it
words you don't
means.
know what it means?
But you asked for the dictionary definition. I can
Yes.
give you a colloquial definition.
Yes.
So the way that I used it is that a right is something that somebody has by nature of existing as a valuable form of life.
What?
As a valuable form. Valuable
Okay,
to who?
So let me tell you something.
Objectively valuable by moral and ethical standards.
A person does not lose value based on developmental stage or location during that developmental stage.
And whose standards are you referring to?
Are you guys all vegetarians here?
No, this is not our stance. This is your
Humans and
stance.
animals are entirely different.
So then you are deciding value, and you don't think that all life has value.
Again, okay. For the
Only
60
human
hold
life.
on,
Only
hold on,
zygotes
let's
have
talk.
value, not
Somebody
animals.
who was a
No,
farmer,
animals
right?
have a
I
value.
grew up on
Their
a farm.
value is different.
Hold on.
It's
I
fine.
grew up on a farm, right? So there is a difference between a human being who has the rational capacity, right, for laws and all of these other things versus an animal that while we treat it with moral consideration, it is still fundamentally utilized as food. So while we have a moral ethic of how we treat said animal, right? We take care of their hooves, we feed them, we do all of these things. We even vet visits, right?
But why bother
feed
if they
them.
don't matter and they're just meat? Why not just
No,
abuse
hang-
them?
if I can explain, because I also grew up on a family ranch and I've had these discussions. The value is different, right? So the value of an animal, as Bubba is trying to
We are
explain,
animals.
people have a different. All right, I'm not getting into that. Horizon. The value of an animal is to sustain human life one way or another. Farmers,
Is this coming from
ranchers,
your religion? Where did you get that? How are you deciding that?
I'm explaining it from somebody who raised livestock.
We are
Those animals
livestock.
That doesn't
have
matter if you raise
value.
livestock or not. You didn't write the
Wait, hold on.
codes of the universe. You don't know why animals are.
Who said we're livestock?
Are you privy to the codes of the universe?
No, I'm saying that she just said that because she raised livestock that she knows why they're here.
I'm explaining
That's
the
the
value of
modifier.
it because you just said animals have no value.
Well, here's
Their
okay.
value
Hold
is
on.
different.
Well, that's your
Let's
opinion.
let's talk about this, right, Horizon? So, what is a cow labeled as far as food wise?
A mammal, just like a human being.
No, they're a what?
Ben,
What
shut
do
up
they-
for a
what do they
second.
eat? What do they eat?
Bovine? Like, I don't know,
Just like a
ruminant
human.
animal?
They're
Like, what are you
considered
talking about?
A herbivore?
I said ruminant animal, but ruminant mammal.
But they're a herbivore. Now, what is a tiger? Is a tiger a herbivore or a carnivore?
A carnivore, of course.
And what are we?
Well, you can decide that. Omnivore is what most people would say.
Exactly. So we are supposed to eat both meat and animals, or animals and from meat.
Where is this supposed to come
And
from?
then on
What
top
if
of
you
that,
disagree that we
have-
are omnivores? Because
hold on.
some people do.
We
Yes,
can
wait,
choose to do whatever we want.
We are
Hold
omnivores.
on.
so
He's
we
talking about the
eat-
nature of humans. Our humans
Yes.
are.
So we
are-
eat meat
We don't have a nature.
and plants. We eat both. It's called the circle of life, buddy.
We can choose what we want to eat.
Wait, hold on. Speaking of choice, so what if you're in a desert and you can't eat animals? What are you supposed to do then?
Well, I mean,
Because
there's
obviously
animal
we're
life in the
Supposed to
omnivores.
starve
desert
to
too.
death.
It
Wait,
might
you're
be a
supposed to
lizard.
wait. Hold on. You care so much about animals, you're supposed to just starve to death and not eat them.
We need to
They
eat
probably would.
animals because we're omnivores, right? So if there's no
Yeah. So what's the
animals,
what's wait?
we can't
So
be
what's the wrong
purely
answer?
vegetarian, right? Because we're omnivores, right?
Well, I
I
would
have
say that
Yeah. So what's
this
the
other
wrong
guest
answer?
seems to be
What?
pro-choice, but I don't even think that that's a given. I think a lot of people would make a compelling argument that we don't even need to be classified as omnivores, that we could easily be. I mean, I'm not a vegetarian myself. I'm just saying I've heard the arguments, and they're pretty compelling that we aren't necessarily omnivores.
Can I?
We're carnivores.
All of the
Or whatever
all
we
of the
want to be.
studies and all of
On
the, everything
average,
that
we
they
are
find,
omnivores.
when it
On
comes
average,
down
Whatever we
we're
want to
you
be, we have
become
choice.
I meant like scientifically, like that
okay,
for our
hold on,
bodies
hold
to
on.
function.
Because
That's what I meant.
scientifically, if we are carnivore, we take a carnivore diet, it does a lot of things, but it is also detrimental in a sense to our bodies. The same way that if you try to become a vegan, guess what?
You just take
It
some you just
doesn't
take a couple
can I
work.
vitamins and
ask
you're
something
good.
really quickly?
Where do you get vitamin supplements in nature?
You guys do not have a good live here. You have too
Mushrooms,
many people talking. You have too many guests talking at
algae,
once. This is not a
bacteria.
good setup.
Okay,
You
then
guys want to have
maybe
serious
Horizon,
conversations and
you
stay on
and Ben
topic.
need to be quiet for a second. Oh, and you're the one that brought up fucking animals, I'm sure.
May I?
That was the topic.
Those are animals.
Topic's abortion.
Yes, and we were talking about who determines value of life, and we talked about, so do animals have life, and why do human lives have value? And then you just started saying that animal lives basically don't have value.
Because you came out and said so animals don't have value.
No,
Can I
that was what you
ask something
said.
really quickly?
Bullshit,
Wait, he
I
didn't
said
say
they do
that.
have a
What?
value. So don't put words in my mouth.
That's called a straw man argument.
I mean,
B12 is from a
Olive, you
bacteria.
want-
You see in the comments?
I mean, if Olive wants to join, she can.
I think that maybe she could educate Mr. Man. He seems uneducated.
Well, she's also pro-life and a vegan, so.
How ironic.
Hey, I wanted to attack his view on rights because he made up this thing about as if
Yeah.
he believes in them,
Educate
but I don't
yourself.
think he does believe in human rights.
Well, where are you guys getting your human rights from? Is it from Christianity, your
why-
own
again,
personal
Why
ethics?
are you asking us our stance?
Well, let me ask you
That's-
something. Do you know where in this country we have what's called the supreme law of the land that lays out where our rights come from? Do you know what it says? Where it says our rights come from?
Yep.
From
By
God?
law, by supreme law. Do you know where it says?
From God?
Well, it says that all.
It says
Men-
our creator. We are endowed by our creator
doesn't
with
say
certain
God, it just
unalienable
says
rights,
creator.
among them being life,
Right.
liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
So
So that's
before this
supreme
Christ-
law.
Well, hold
So
on,
where
hold
are
on,
you
man.
getting your rights
Order,
from?
So
hello,
before the
hello,
Constitution,
hello,
the rights
hello.
not
coming
have
from?
rights?
Hello.
Wait,
one at a
hold on,
time.
Mr. Man. It's not pursuit of happiness; it's pursuit of property. It's we have life, liberty, and property.
Well, that's not how it's written in the Declaration.
It's not. Yeah, it is written as happiness in the Declaration. So
Well, they changed it. It was originally life, liberty, and property.
Huh.
well, regardless.
So wait.
So you
Well, no, I
mentioned
mean, we
that
have a
this
right to life,
document
liberty,
claims
and
this.
property. But we also have a right to pursue happiness. We don't have a right to be
One at a
happy.
time.
Are you wrong, Mr. Man, or no?
Guys, I have a
Wrong about what?
question.
Wait, hold on.
It's like it was
Who's
correct.
pro-life and who's pro-choice or
Well,
abolitionist?
Horizon, Mr.
Everyone
Ben.
up top is pro-life.
Well, hold
I'm,
on. Let's
I'm,
get back to
I'm anti-abortion, no exception.
Wait. Let's get back to Horizon's stance. We were talking about rights. So he defined it. Can you redefine it?
You want me to redefine rights?
Yes.
Well, I would say that rights are something that we collectively as humans agree upon.
I disagree.
I don't think that some document written 300 years ago is where rights came from. I think it existed.
Neither
before
do
that.
I. I didn't say
Actually,
it was.
That's not the case because of the fact. If you think about this, slavery was a human rights violation, and yet the majority of people agreed with it and still do so today.
Exactly,
It
which
wasn't a
proves
human
that it
rights
changes.
violation.
That it's changing based off of every day.
No.
It was
What
supported
humans
by the law.
decide.
It was supported by the
No,
laws.
no, people agreed with slavery.
No, it was
Exactly.
They were
supported by
not
the laws.
against it, yet it was still classified as a human rights violation.
You mean like for them, they determined that back then? Because I don't think they did.
Yes, the people determined that slavery was okay back then.
Yeah, they did not determine that it was a human rights violation at the time. They thought that this is just the
Exactly,
natural
determined
order of
after
things,
the
and then they
fact.
changed that.
Wait,
Yes.
Horizon, are you a moral subjectivist?
Let him
course he
talk.
is.
Can you just let him have a conversation and not put him in a box?
I wouldn't even use that
But I
term.
mean,
I would
it's
say
just
that
a
human
very
beings are
important
actively
thing.
deciding morality on the
Is
fly.
what I'm trying to explain is that it's still a human rights violation that we had slavery, right?
From our standpoint, yes, probably.
That's why it was taken away, even though the majority of the people
They didn't consider them
still
human.
wanted it.
They didn't
Ben,
consider
shut
them
up.
human.
We're doing one at a time.
Okay, so then what does the majority think? What is, let's say America, for instance, or North America, whatever you want to do. What is the majority stance on the pro-life versus pro-choice issue?
What difference does that make?
Honestly,
It matters because you're
I
talking
would
about what the
say-
majority of
I would
people
Majority
say.
is pro-choice.
That
I
would
say
be
that
an
the
appeals
majority-
I could care less about majority.
Yeah,
That
so I
would
would
be an
say
appeals to
that
majority.
the vast majority.
You're the one who
would
believes that
probably-
morals are
So
subjective.
if
The
based on what
1%
the
decides
majority
that God
believes, not
gave
us.
God gave fetuses human rights, and then 99% disagrees, then it doesn't matter because the 1% is right because they got it from God.
Well,
Okay, let me ask you
so I'm an
something then.
atheist.
What DNA does a fetus have? Human.
You mean like
It
the
is
like the
alive.
50% mother, 50% father?
Yeah, it's
That's
human
chromosome,
DNA.
but yes, but the DNA is subjective. Is objectively true to be Homo sapien.
But why is that valuable? We should get to that. Why is that
Because it's
inherently
a
valuable?
person.
I
has
can
a
answer
person,
that.
not a
Why
person.
they
One at a time.
claim
Hold on. So
A
I
person
can
is a
answer,
developmental
I can answer
stage.
why. I can answer why that is. Why that would be.
Valuable in a person.
Valuable.
Go.
Because no discriminatory actions upon a human race can be utilized to negate someone's right to life, regardless of.
That's
of
circular.
Yeah, that actually was circular. And by the way, yeah, you're just deciding that actually.
No,
you didn't have
no.
any.
No discriminatory actions, right? So we would just say because you are human, you automatically have these human rights that apparently
They're a
everybody
person because you
has.
can't infringe on their rights. That's circular.
You cannot infringe upon someone's
But
rights.
why? Why can you not infringe
That is
upon their
why.
rights?
That is
Well, I think we need to start with the question, Horizon. Do you believe that humans ought
Well, hold on.
have
Let me answer
human
what he
rights?
just said.
That's what
Yeah,
you need
well-
to answer that
Well,
question.
let me just respond to what he just said. So he's saying that we cannot violate human rights because it's wrong. I'm saying, and he's defining human as anyone with human DNA. I'm saying, why are we deciding at a certain point that this qualifies there? You're deciding that something there has value just because of human DNA. Why does that have value? Why does that qualify? And why can we not violate that?
Well, you already accepted that human beings have rights, did you not?
Yes, but I don't think it's a human
so
being.
hold on. No, just stop right there.
Whether
you are the
you
one who
believe
substantiated.
something or
Hold
not.
on. You already just said that human beings have rights. So you
Human
already
being is
presupposed-
subjective. Human
you
being
already
is subjective.
presupposed that
No,
human
it's
rights
not.
exist.
It's not subjective. Being a human being
What
is
is a
not
being?
subjective.
What is a being?
Being
Okay,
needs to
it's-
exist.
Being is a
Exist.
verb.
What is a being?
Yeah, human
It's a
just
verb.
human is the species, being is the state of existence. So Mr. Ben, you can only be three different things. You can
Yes.
excuse me,
How do you exist?
You can there's only three states of existence.
Somebody
There is
drank
alive. So like alive means being. A corpse is an unalive person, and inanimate is like an object, like a toaster.
Okay, so a fetus, like a
You
fetus,
can be alive. You can be alive.
Fetus
you
is
can
not
be
inanimate.
unalive,
like a
or you
fetus,
can be inanimate.
like an
Okay,
inanimate
like
Stop.
fetus.
Yo, you're
Guys, you're talking
Those
One
are
at a
the
time.
only those are the only three states of being. So Horizon, real quick. So I don't believe that rights exist. I think that rights ought exist. Okay, rights can only exist via an enforcement arm. So we have
I agree.
but I'm a moral objectivist. So, and I'm an atheist. So I would argue that these moral truths ought be self-evident.
Right, but this is really important.
Yeah.
So where are you getting your objective morality from as an atheist?
Please,
Are you making it up?
again.
Yep.
Well, so listen.
She is.
I'm gonna explain.
Yeah, let her
So
talk.
whether or not I can see these objective truths doesn't mean that the objective truths aren't there. So in order to look at, so I think that our rational mind is a product of evolution, and I think that that's what separates us from the rest of the animal kingdom. However, not every person can see these objective truths. It
Well,
doesn't
who
mean that they don't
can?
exist. So I would say
And atheists can't
when
even
I-
conceptualize them.
when I'm working out my moral framework, I typically use a natural law theory. I use the secular version of a natural law theory. So in the secular view, the creator, quote unquote, would be the universe. I think that it is morally unintuitive to think that we as our own, like I would hope that you agree that your life is worth living.
Well, hold
and
on,
that-
because you're not answering
The
the main
universe is
question here,
amoral.
which is how do you know that this is objective? How do you know that you're getting to the objective morality here? You're just deciding that, aren't you?
like I said, whether or not I know that it's it's like if a tree falls in the woods,
You can say
right,
it, yeah,
and
I know what
nobody
you're
is
saying.
there.
But she's
Nobody is
objectively
there.
objective.
Excuse me.
One
If-
at a time.
A tree falls in the woods and nobody is there to experience it. Does it make noise? Does it objectively make sound?
Who is measuring that, though?
Yep.
How
If
do
not
you know?
you, then who?
That's not the point I'm
Sound
making.
is not a. How do you
You're
qualify
not
that?
you're not tracking. So
You say there's
moral-
objective
moral-
morality that exists
Guys,
regardless of whether
guys,
you're
guys,
aware
guys,
of
One
it.
don't
at a
violate
time.
moral truths, okay? A truth is something that cannot be,
Be a schizo.
debated. Moral truths exist
Fucking
in
schizo.
regardless if there is a supreme being. We as rational agents ought
You're rational.
You keep
be
repeating
able-
this. You keep repeating the same thing. I agree
guys,
and I understand.
Guys, 5 seconds. 5
So-
seconds. You're all
Yeah, but-
dogpiling her. You don't let her finish.
No, it's me.
And
I'm
yes,
having
I
a
disagree
conversation
with
with this
her
other
to a
woman.
point
You need
too,
to be quiet,
but you guys
actually,
have
because
to let
it's a
her
conversation
fucking
I was having with
finish.
her.
Let
Excuse
her
me.
finish.
It's an interactive
annoying.
conversation I was having with this woman. Actually, now you're being disrespectful.
Excuse me.
You
One
keep
at a
interrupting
time.
her.
One at a time.
I was not interrupting her. I told her repeatedly that she was repeating the same thing. The point is, she's saying there's objective morality that exists, and it doesn't matter whether she perceives this or not. But how does she know it exists? Why is she just saying that?
Okay, so let
How
her
does she
finish.
know?
And if she talks for too long, be like, "Hey, land your plane."
Morality is subjective.
Okay, you need to
Reality
get
is
out of
subjective.
Only to
Not
She's so
atheists.
fucking cringy.
subjective. It is not
I
subjective.
am Christian and I agree with you guys on that stuff, but you guys are just over talking
cares?
her
If
and literally
you-
dogpiling
All right,
her.
you need to be
can't-
quiet.
Do
All
you
of
One
you.
at a
think-
time. Hello,
Okay.
hello.
Do you
hello.
think, Horizon, do you think that grape is objectively wrong or subjectively wrong?
What if you could prevent World War II?
Okay, Ben, seriously.
Why
All
can't you
right,
answer
let's
the
just.
question?
So, objectively versus subjectively wrong, I would say I don't know if it's objectively wrong. If it is objectively
Are you
wrong,
kidding?
I would want to know why. What is the evidence that it is? Who's saying that? From where? How
That's
do
an honest atheist right there.
honestly just said you don't know if grape is objectively wrong.
I don't know. I admit that. I admit that.
Not
I don't
objectively
have any
So
wrong.
here,
Okay.
this
Well,
is how,
as
this
an
is
atheist,
how,
you
this-
can't justify.
Horizon.
It's not.
Horizon, this is a really easy test to determine whether or not something is objectively moral
No,
or
this
not.
is an appeal to
Would you
emotion.
want?
This is an
Would
It is.
you
appeal to
want?
It actually is.
excuse me,
Cringe,
excuse
cringe,
me.
cringe.
One at a time.
Would
One
you
at a time.
want this to happen to you?
Appeal
Of
to
course
emotion.
not. That's just my
Okay,
personal
Okay,
opinion,
so that's
though. It's not
that's what we
written in
call
stone.
that's what we call the golden rule. Okay, the golden rule does not need an omniscient or like a supreme being. We as
What are you talking
rational
about? Of course it does.
we as
Appeal to
rational
emotion.
human beings, I can absent of a god, I can say I would objectively think that graping, I would not want to be graped beyond my will. Okay, so I know that objectively grape is wrong. I
That's
would
not
not want.
objective.
I would
Why?
not want somebody
You're
to.
just presupposing.
Oh my god.
Without a God as your arbiter, you have no leg to stand on. You have no standard for which you are determining what is good, bad,
Again,
right, or wrong.
Secular,
You guys have no
natural
leg to
law.
stand on.
based on,
You
oh,
guys
it would
sound-
hurt me,
You
so I
guys
don't
sound
favor natural
crazy.
law.
One
You
at
guys
a
sound
time.
If you believe in a
Guys,
God and your God
guys.
tells you that graping children is okay, I would find that morally unintuitive and that to go against objective morality.
Wait, what?
maybe you should just pay attention to
So,
objective reality and the
so
people
when it
around
comes,
you.
Mr. Ben, why don't you
most of
just
us are having
fucking
to
drop?
stay
You're adding
muted because we
nothing of
can't
value.
exactly talk at all because this is a Mr. Ben Horizon kind of over talking everybody. While I agree that there has to be some kind of authority that has created this moral framework have created these moral absolutes and these conscience that we have. But even if they do not believe in a higher power, these belief systems are still that are still instilled. Fundamentally, do have the religious background that they just themselves do not put a framework behind this.
Yeah, because they want to subjectively alter their morality at a whim when
Well,
they
no,
can.
no.
Because if
Well,
there
no.
is no standard, then I could, hey, my morality could be whatever I choose it to be.
Yeah, well, but that's what I'm like. So Olive, right? She said that she does not believe in that, right? So God is not the one that implemented "do not murder," right? Which we know that that's been around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, right? It was one of the fundamental laws that it was already created. But when it comes down to it, that those fundamental laws that came from religion have still found their way into society. It's just that, and she may hold this moral framework of what religion has placed into society, but she does not. She may not accept the ultimate authority that originally placed this.
Oh, how
So
convenient.
when it says the truths are self-evident, okay, these truths, what they meant when they wrote that is these moral truths, right? So these are objective truths are self-evident. I don't think that they are self-evident to everyone because some people have mental illness. Some people have, issues with their brain chemistry that makes them not rational beings. That
Atheism is a mental illness.
doesn't make the moral truth not exist. So when it says these truths are self-evident, that is exactly what that means. It means these moral truths can be seen by the own rational mind. It doesn't take a God or a supreme being to know what is wrong and what is right objectively. Okay, they are self-evident.
It takes
They're
recognizing a
self-evident.
supreme being.
Because you're forgetting the next part, right?
It's only
We hold
self-evident
these
to those who
truths to be
recognize a supreme
self-evident that
being.
all men are created
No,
equal
it's
and
self-evident to
endowed.
anyone
Wait,
who
hold
has
on, guys,
who is not
guys.
mentally
Hello,
ill
hello, who's
or on
talking?
shrugs.
Hello, who's talking? Can we get back to the abortion discussion? This is straying too far away from the prompt. Well, I mean, I changed it.
I just wanted to correct something real quick, right? So it specifically says, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal and endowed by their creator certain inalienable rights, right?
Right.
So
But what I said
specifically-
earlier, Bubba, what you may have missed is as a secular person, when I use secular natural law, I mean, you can just Google it. You can look up secular natural law. The creator with a capital C that you use for someone who subscribes to secular natural law, the creator is the universe. These are natural, universal rules. So whether or not I believe that it was a big bang
The universe
or that
is
we had
amoral.
a creator, these are a set of secular natural laws. They are of the natural order. Okay, regardless if it was created outside of happenstance. So if you look up secular natural law, it will give you a window into what I'm saying. These are moral truths that can be observed in nature, right? Just by being a rational mind. They ought be self-evident. Okay, they're not even self-evident to some Christians, which is wildly disturbing, but they're not. There are some people who believe in a creator that don't believe that, abortion is wrong and stuff like that. Like they call themselves Christians. I would venture to say they're not. But I don't think we need to have the the idea that someone created this world to have objective truths. If it is compassionate and you would not want it done to you, or most people wouldn't if they were working from a rational framework, like if I saw Horizon like had a seizure or whatever and he was like seizing on the street, I don't know if he wants to just self-unalive. I can't be like in his mind, right? I don't know if he's working from a rational framework. So maybe he wants to commit schmooicide, right? But he's having a seizure and I don't know that. So I have to presume that he does want to live. And if I were in that position, I would hope somebody would stop and help me, right? If I were an infant in the womb, even prior to sentience, I would hope that if somebody could speak for me, they would say, let her live, because we all have the right to have the consistent life ethic, right? So these moral truths genuinely come from the golden rule. I just don't think the golden rule is required to come from an omniscient, being.
Then where is it coming from?
Your rational mind.
So then it's just subjective.
No, it
I
hasn't.
could rationalize.
No, it's not.
I could rationalize
subjective.
unaliving
It doesn't make
someone.
it subjective. It does not make it subjective. It's still objective. Yeah,
Well,
you can
so-
do some atheists believe in objective morality? That's all you have to, I mean, it's just if it is the
They
more
can't
compassionate.
possibly.
Okay, so what he's trying to get at,
It's a
Olive,
contradiction.
Right, is
That's
No,
insanity.
it's not. No,
Okay,
it's
so-
not.
Guys,
hold
It
on,
is.
so-
You are suffering cognitive
No.
dissonance if you believe that.
Guys,
man,
can we
it's not.
It's
Okay,
really
can I-
not.
can I
Let Bubba
talk?
Let Bubba
Atheists can have moral objective.
So what he's trying to get at, right, is without the creator, right? With when you use the Big Bang, you use evolution, you use all these things. There is no quote unquote creator, right? This was just happened by chance. It was over millions of years. Everything evolved. Everything had this, right? Whereas if you believe in this, right, where do morals come from, right? Because if there's no creator and there's no purpose and it's everything happened by chance, then there's no moral objective truth.
Natural
There's no-
law. Again, I use
Yeah,
natural.
hold on, but and yet
You're just
natural-
saying a
hold on,
word.
Natural
No,
law.
I'm not just saying the word. When you get off of TikTok, you can.
I know
do
what
your-
natural law is. I know all
Okay,
about
and
it.
so do I.
I'm a
And so do
constitutionalist.
I. That's
when you
what I
say,
use for
hold on, so
objective
when you say
morality.
natural law, to me
Yes,
that's
there
just
is.
meaning the
You
laws
can,
of nature,
I use
correct?
secular, natural.
Wait, hold on,
Hold on, hold on. Is that
Can
just the
Olive,
laws
can
of
you
nature?
follow
Hey,
me so that I
guys,
can,
who's
you and I can
Who's
carry
this
this conversation on
talking?
later?
Yeah, absolutely, Horizon.
Who's
Yeah,
this
I'll
hello,
follow you.
hello, who's this talking? This is straying away from the topic, right? Horizon, we were investigating Horizon's stance and this is rattled off, right? So we need to get back to that.
Okay.
Can I ask? I'm just curious. Can somebody explain to me? Is natural law just the law of nature?
That's called the law of the jungle. So I don't know what she's talking
No,
about.
that would be like a naturalistic fallacy.
Where grape is the way
Laws
you
of nature.
reproduce in the
like
jungle.
that would be saying
by
like,
natural
yeah,
law.
like grape would be okay because like animals do it in nature, or infanticide would be okay because animals do it in nature. So
It's
natural law is
just-
not the same thing as a naturalistic fallacy.
Well, it's not a fallacy. It's just nature. But when it comes down
No,
to it, when you're
it's-
saying
yeah,
natural law, I'm
natural
trying to
law.
understand because if you say natural law, to me, that's just the law of what is natural, right? So in reality, fighting and wars and everything else would just then be a natural law.
Yeah,
because
you're
it's
just
natural
confusing
with our
the two terms, but that would be a really long conversation.
I
I
found
think
the
the host just wants to
definition.
get back to abortion.
You're just begging the
Wait,
question
one
is
second,
what you're
one
doing.
second. I found the definition
No,
to natural law.
I'm not.
1 second.
Can we just maintain the topic though?
I just want to explain what natural law is real quick. Natural law, or is natural, I probably mispronounced that, refers to a system of rights or justice that is believed to be common to all humans and derived from nature rather than societal rules or positive law. It asserts that certain rights and moral values are inherent in human nature and can be understood universally, independent of enacted laws or societal norms. This philosophy holds that there are objective legal standards based on morality that inform the creation, interpretation, and application of human-made laws.
All right, so we can all agree that natural law is not what we're deciding with the pro-choice, pro-life thing because it's irrelevant. But so if we're not using natural law, we have to have some sort of objective morality.
I would disagree.
We have Christians above. Olive, I believe you're an atheist. And you said that you just sort of decide your own morality, and it's just true regardless.
No,
and you
I
have any
don't
objective-
decide my own morality.
You said that it exists regardless of whether you decide
I
it.
said,
and you never
okay,
explained
so
how.
the reason that we digressed was because natural law does dictate objective morality, and it is objectively wrong to unalive someone. Okay, it is objectively wrong. You would not want that done to you. Okay, it is objectively wrong. We do not need any sort of supreme being to know that unaliving
Let me ask you a
person
question. Let me press
in
you
the
on that.
womb is wrong.
Let me press you on that. You're just begging the question because just because it would be bad for me if it happened to me doesn't mean it's bad for me if it happens to you. So how is this self-evident that it's wrong when all you're saying is because it's I'm valuing me? Why would that mean I value you? There's no justification. You're just begging the question. By saying natural law, the natural course is that the strong will survive and the weak will perish. That's the natural law.
Okay, guys.
That's a
1 second,
naturalistic
1 second.
fallacy. That's
Olive, 1
different than
second.
natural law.
Olive,
Yeah,
1
but you're not
second.
justifying natural
Mr.
law
Man,
with anything
God.
objective.
1 second.
I don't
1
have
second.
to justify objective morality because it's objective.
No, you're not
Guys,
justifying
I don't
natural
have
law.
to justify it. It's
hello.
objectively wrong.
Does anybody listen to the host? One at a time, or everybody's going to be dropped from the panel. One at a time. Not going to say it
How
again.
about 1v1 right now? Because honestly, there is
Yes.
multiple
So
people
I'm
trying to debate
I'm
with her at
gonna
the same
I'm gonna
time.
drop Horizon. I gave you a follow. I would just if you want to have a conversation with me about objective morality and secular, just Google secular natural law, and then we can have an abortion debate because it's objectively wrong.
Absolutely.
Okay, have a good one, guys.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Have a good night. Okay, I have a
I
question.
truly believe that the only reason that this whole idea of natural law is being used is because atheists who have no objective standard to base their morality from are scrambling for some way to justify their rights. Because without a divine creator endowing us with rights, they don't exist.
Can't we agree on them collectively as a society?
Yeah, but then it's only based on how long we agree.
Exactly,
And then they
but that's
disappear
we
once we
used
don't
to
agree
agree.
anymore.
We used to agree on slavery. The Bible used to say that was okay, and then we decided that it was wrong.
Wait, what?
We also agreed in the origin of this country that separation of church and state, that the government cannot dictate any one religion over another or one religion under another via law legislature.
No, we didn't. Where is that written?
Yeah, that'd be your
Separation
First
of church
Amendment,
and
my
Cite
guy.
that
You should go
source.
read it. Yeah, you should go read it. It's the
It's
First
not-
Amendment of the
it was
Yeah,
just
Constitution.
a
all
letter.
that means is that we can't establish a religion.
One at a
But our
time.
country was
Wait, it
established
doesn't
under
say
the
establish
basis
a
of human
religion.
rights being endowed to us by our
Wait,
Creator.
you-
So if you
you should
deny
read
that, you're
it.
denying the existence of
I'll bring
rights,
it up.
therefore you're denying all law.
So do you actually
Essentially-
want to read the First Amendment, or do you want to quote what you believe it
Hang on,
says?
can I speak?
Oh, no, I've read the
If-
First Amendment.
Yes.
The separation of church and state isn't even in the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution. It was in a fucking letter.
It was added later. It wasn't
In
actually
a
something that's
letter.
supposed to happen.
Yeah, the
That
First Amendment,
clarified that
all
the
it's saying is
government
they
would
can't
have no
One at a
power to
time.
the church like England. You know, like how England, there was that whole issue between like the evangelicals and the Catholics. Basically, that letter clarified that that would not become a thing in the U.S.
I don't think it was evangelicals. I think it was the Episcopals and the Catholics.
Wait.
No, evangelicals were in England.
Evangelical's a modern American term, but go off.
You want big box?
Yeah.
Guys, so I'm confused.
Wait, hold
I
on. Let me
don't
big
know.
box it.
I don't know who is pro-life, abolitionist, or pro-choice. I
I'm an
personally am
abolitionist.
abolitionist.
Wait. I can't. Okay, there. Okay,
I'm the
let me
only
big box.
pro-choice person on this panel, I think.
No, I
Yeah.
don't think
So where where in that text does it say specifically that it's just purely that we cannot raise one or another? Last I checked, that it could not establishment of a religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peacefully to assemble. So it doesn't just say legitimately that we cannot respect one or that we cannot just enact one as a government religion. And in fact, it says we can make no law in respect to of a establishment of a religion. So therefore, I cannot make a law on the basis of Christianity. I cannot make a law on the basis of Catholicism. I cannot make a law on the basis
There's a
of
lot of
Islam.
laws based on Christianity, so that's already too far
Yeah,
gone.
name me
And
one. Name me
Wait,
one.
that was hold on. That was the case. Like sodomy laws and the Comstock, that was the case. Not anymore, but there were
Well,
laws.
no,
And it further
those,
proves
they
my
weren't
point
based
that
on
separation
Christianity.
of
They were
church
based
and
on the
state
fear
is
of
mentioned nowhere
depravity.
in here.
Yes,
Wait,
whoever just
wait,
said that, you're right.
It was
What?
based on depravity, not based on religion. So it was seen as depravity to commit
Right.
anal, being real. It was seen as a horrendous action. It was justified through the Eighth Amendment that an equal harmful act shall be punished with equal and harmful
And then don't you
punishment.
think we've
Wait,
decided-
hold
Here's
on,
one.
hold on.
Here's
One at a
one.
time, everybody.
Horizon brought this to my attention with his whole Happy Pride Month crap.
Happy
Gay
Pride,
marriage
guys.
used to be illegal. There we go. There's one. That's considered a sin in Christianity.
They
First of all,
considered a
that's
sin in
literally not
Christianity.
true. Do you know how many churches near me actually accept LGBTQ?
Move on from this point. Come on. The point.
You're
is-
literally wrong. You
Wait,
actually
the
have no
point.
idea
Wait,
what you're
hold
talking
on.
So
about.
because
Hold on.
things
Yeah,
happen
those
to align
churches-
with
Guys,
Christian
hold on,
values
hold on.
doesn't mean they
Speaking.
came
Host
from
is
Christian
speaking.
values.
Those-
Okay,
talking.
guys, this
Let's
is
just
an
talking.
abortion live. Keep on the fucking topic.
Are you the host, Vet?
Well, I am.
I'm supporting the
Okay.
host.
So again, someone made a claim that abortion was a right. I want you to substantiate that. If you can't, then move on from that point.
You're talking to me now?
Yes.
Who made that claim?
I
Yes,
never said
that's right.
abortion is a right. I said that we agree upon these things. Well, actually, you know what? If we're
No.
deciding that rights
No.
are something that we agree upon, then I would say
no.
yes. But you guys could not accept that.
No.
I'm gonna
You
say
said.
what you said.
Wait,
You
wait,
said
hold
you
on.
support
Wait,
a
hold on.
woman's
Hold
right
on.
to choose.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay, and that, yeah, you're right. I did say that, and I would say that rights actually, after everything we just said, there is no objective rights. That it is something we're deciding on.
Okay, so you don't have a right to have an abortion. Good, you win. Thank you. You're pro-life.
No, because I agree with you that we have these rights that are just basically we're deciding on them right now. It's not objective though. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
All right, well, then if
Horizon,
that's the
actually,
case, then
I
we
have
can
a
wanna
vote
take over
to
this?
take
Really
away
quick.
women's
Guys,
right
one
to
second.
go outside.
One second. So the thing says that we have a right to life, liberty, and originally it said property, apparently. So life would include the fetus, aka people in the womb, which they are people. I hate when people call fetuses it.
Okay, this is
They
a
are
total
they
distraction.
until you know the gender. And fetus means little one or offspring in Latin, so it basically does mean baby. And so whenever I say baby, that's why. And we are all guaranteed the right to life, including those who are not citizens of the United States. You cannot, unalive an immigrant, for example, just because they are not a citizen. Just like it should be completely illegal in every single case to unalive babies in the womb.
So I got a question for you. Without
Yes.
a strong arm to enforce these so-called rights, would you even have rights?
You'd still have them, but they would be infringed upon. There'd be nothing you could do to stop it.
I thought we were discussing objective morality, so I don't see why this conversation even needs to involve U.S.
Yeah,
law.
why are we on objective morality though when you should be justifying your stance on pro-life, not us on our stance of pro?
You don't think
Well, I could
pro-life?
easily
You
do
don't
that.
think pro-life, pro-choice is relevant to objective morality? It absolutely is. That's like that's
Yeah.
why every pro-life
Hang on,
person
but
is
you're-
pro-life is because they
It literally
believe
says
it's
on the
objective.
prompt. It literally says on the prompt that you're supposed to be the one justifying your stance as a pro.
I am. I justified it already.
I see no justification for.
I heard zero. I heard
Okay,
zero.
do you want me to
I heard
repeat
the
myself?
need to get to. Let me clarify, Horizon. So I heard zero explanation of your position, but I did hear the need for the clarification of what basis of which you want to establish your position on. Because you're arguing, should we argue this from an objective morality stance or we're pleading to legality? Which I would agree with you that we need to stay on the objective morality stance versus a plea to legality.
Okay, I agree with that. But the issue was that my justification for a woman's right to choose was ultimately that when I say that, I'm not saying that there is an objective right. I'm saying that there's a right we agree on collectively, but that doesn't mean it doesn't matter. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist just because it's not objective.
Obviously, we don't agree on it, though. And that's the whole reason we need objective morality, because subjective morality means that your life doesn't matter, but mine does.
Objective morality said slavery was okay, and then we just changed our mind.
No,
They've
that
gone
was
subjective
subjective
morality. The
morality.
fact of the matter is, in 50 years, nobody's going to think like you. So it is moving in that direction.
I would argue that the objective morality in this scenario is that we all believe that human life is valuable, right? That'd be objective morality, right? We all can agree to that. That is something that's mind independent, that we all individually uphold of human life, right? We all value human life. That would be the objective truth between pro-choice and pro-life, right? Now, the contrast to that objective morality would come in where you want to infringe upon that independent human life that we all have objectively agreed to value.
And that's the thing, like to value rights, you have to value a person's right to life first, because all rights are derivative of your right to live. You can't have a right to choose unless you have a right to live first.
Right, of course, but that's the main sticker here, is that it's people who are pro-choice do not agree that this is a human life. They just don't agree with you on that. We do value human life, but we don't agree that a zygote, for instance, is a human life.
Then what kind of life
can we
is
reproduce anything? Wait, can we reproduce anything?
Sorry. Actually, no, I misspoke there. They would probably agree that it's a biological human life. They would probably say that it's not a valuable human life.
All right, but that's the whole thing. Now, you're valuing certain human lives over other certain human lives, and that has nothing to do with human rights, because as far as human rights are concerned, all human beings are equal, and you cannot alienate anyone from their rights. So this whole idea, we only value certain people, then I could just say, I only value pro-lifers, so I can unalive pro-choicers.
We slipped back in the origin context that I laid out, Horizon, so we both agreed that human life should be valued, right? In the period of point blank, human life should be valued over all. That would be the objective morality in this stance. So you say that there is some form of human life that should not be valued, then that would have challenged the objective morality that says that all human life should be valued.
Yeah, well, I never agreed with that. I actually don't agree that that's objective. I think that we as people generally agree on that. But like other people have mentioned, there are psychopaths, there are mentally ill people who wouldn't even agree. They'd say human life means nothing. I don't care. It's my joy to end human life. People would say these things. So I don't think it is. I think it's just the majority of society agrees upon it, and so that's how we build our society.
I would argue they value human life as the ultimate prize, and then this sick mind of a person who wants to unalive human life magically and mystically, they value the fact that it's a human life more so than unalive animals. Otherwise, why wouldn't they stick to their animalistic victims?
That's interesting.
Being real, if they didn't value human life as some sort of fashion, then why wouldn't they just stick with animalistic victims if they know, as a psychopath, logically thinking and not without any emotional placation into it, they know logically they will be perpetrated and arrested for unaliving human life, but will not get arrested for unaliving an animal in most states in the United States. They should, but unfortunately the law, right, this is going to be a plea to legality, which I understand is a fallacy, but if we're talking about a sociopath's brain that's thinking logically and clear, right? They would commit that logical fallacy and going, am I going to be free if I unalive these, animal lives, or am I going to be free if I unalive this human life? Oh, I'm going to be free if I unalive these animal lives. So you have no higher value of human life. You could continuously doing the thing that you're going to get away with in order to fulfill your sick obsession. However, because you do value human life in some way, shape, or form higher than an animalistic life, you are going for the higher prize.
So you're saying that the value can be negative?
Mm-hmm. Is there such thing as a negative value?
Okay. Well, I think that a sociopath doing that, they don't necessarily I'm not sure I would say that they objectively value life. It's more just that, yes, they have the subjective value that most of society does, and that's what excites them. But they're not saying that it's like God or some like, fundamental truth of the universe.
No, I would say they just objectively value it more because it's human and it's alive, more so
Why do
than
you need
it's
to use
just
the word
life.
objectively there? Can't you just say that they subjectively value it more because in their little fantasy mind that it matters more?
Well, because the reason why I've already established and what I'm establishing is that objectively human life is valued by all humans higher than any other life, right? And when you point
That's
out
not
the
even
rare
true.
cases, when you point out the rare cases of sociopaths to try to denounce that claim, right? I would claim that sociopaths are still valuing that human life purely because of that it's human. Because again, I reductio back to again that if they didn't value the human life over animalistic life, then why would they inevitably seek that human life when logical fallacies would say that if they continued on a live animalistic life, they would continue to live free and unhindered.
I agree I know what you're trying to say, but the point is that it does not need to be objective. That's just like you're using that word here when it's not relevant. Like you can easily use the same argument that it's just that it's
What it
a
means is mind
thing they
independent.
value more subjectively. They value human life more subjectively. They're not
But
getting
when-
it from any objective source.
But I would argue with them when everybody objectively
But that's what I also
values
said.
this
Is that's wrong.
in their
That's
subjective
not actually
view.
true. Do you actually think every
That
human
proves
being on
my
this planet
independence.
objectively agrees that human life has value?
That
Or
human life
that
has
it
higher
has the
value than
ultimate
all
value?
other forms of life? Yes, that has. The
What
ultimate
about like
value.
vegans who are, saying that human life matters less than animals? People who say that.
Why
I
aren't
mean,
they
I haven't
eating
ran into
people?
one vegan. I haven't
Well,
ran
maybe
into
they
one
want
vegan
to.
that has. Most vegans actually agree that eating meat in general. So they argue that animal lives are equal to human lives, but they don't argue that animal lives are more.
Okay, well
than
then you
human
just
lives.
said that human lives were the most important, though, that they were above animal lives. So if they say they're equal, then that disproves your point.
No.
They still agree that human lives have the most ability to create harm to the world, right? We also have the more higher rationale over animals as well as plants. However, they decide that the value of keeping an animal alive would be equal to keeping the value of keeping a human alive. And Duncan, I know my hole I dug myself, but I can easily dig myself out. I got this. I've learned from debating you.
The only reason this comes up is because the first thing that these pro-choicers do is cite a woman's rights. And, well, to a subjective moralist, rights are subjective, like definitions, like everything else. So they don't exist. They're just imaginary.
Sure,
But
but
to-
we can still agree upon imaginary things and have a societal consensus. That's what we do with everything.
Because I haven't been able to talk much, I actually had a question for Horizon.
Go ahead.
So, why is it when a pregnant woman is unalived intentionally, the person who did it is hit with a murder charge in some sort of degree and a manslaughter charge? Why is he hit with two charges, one for each life?
Well, so this is a common, before you answer, Horizon, this is a common misconception. The Unborn Victims of Violence Act of 2004 isn't even a federal law. It's only recognized in, like, I think it's either 34 or 39 states.
Well, whether it is or not, I was just going to say that that doesn't prove anything about objective morality. That just means that people have decided that this is like a worse crime, and because they are subjectively valuing this life, the unborn life,
It is okay, so regardless of unborn, it is still recognized of having the value that an additional charge in some states would get added for that life that is lost.
Of course, I don't disagree with that. I think that in those states, like in red states, they agree that certain things that's the consensus reality there. And then in other states, there's a different consensus reality because they're deciding it. They're just choosing it based off
So
of what the
how do you
majority
I
will
say
follow.
that. Hang on. I say that to say this, right? This has zero explanatory power as to whether or not this action would be right or wrong. Like this would just be like a pragmatic view. And
Right.
I would say that if you have not established some normative framework, pragmatics is a waste. You'll never agree on pragmatics.
All right. Well, if I can't get a fucking word in, I'm a dip.
Well, hold on.
No, I have a reason to be irritated because I was going somewhere with this, and then I politely get cut off.
Guys, I'm gonna have to change this
Go
format
ahead.
to 1v1. I'm gonna have to change this format to 1v1 because this is getting annoying with all these interjections. So if you guys want to speak to one specific person, let me know. But
Yeah, that's 1v1's going to be more effective. I'm a head out. It's 9 in the morning here anyway, so.
because I mean the open panel is really irritating. Yeah. That open
Pride
panel
bet.
is-
Howard.
So do we want to continue on?
So, okay. So somebody brought up, who I think it was, who brought up the example of? Oh yeah. Oh, okay. No, that was the woman who just left. So it doesn't even matter in any event what state laws decide because that's just, I would say that's more proof that we are just deciding based off of the consensus. We all come to some sort of agreement, and if the majority cannot tolerate slavery, then we get this sort of shift in what human rights are, and we're like, wait, actually, it's a human right to not be enslaved. But it wasn't always the case because the majority of human beings did not think that way, or they didn't have the power to even have an opinion on it. But so pretty much everyone else in this panel is like, I think, a Christian with an objective morality framework. So I'm just asking them, if you're not a Christian and you don't subscribe to this, that God provides objective morality, then how can you enforce that on people who are pro-choice and don't believe in your objective morality?
Horizon.
Hold on. Can I rebuttal real quick? So,
Before
Horizon,
you
you're.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Fidel. No, you go
I
ahead.
just want to say one thing so it makes it more clear in this conversation. Can you guys both give a definition of objective because it seems very confused here?
Mind independent thought.
I would say objective means that it exists regardless of what any human being thinks about it, and it existed eternally since the universe existed.
So why
Yeah, so we mind
why are
independent.
all your cases based on an agreement?
So, well, and this is where I kind of want to rebuttal Horizon a little bit. So, even if we use the plea to legality, which the plea to legality is very ugly, Duncan has actually schooled me harshly over this plea to legality because I used to make this same fallacy. The problem with making a plea to legality is not always going to be moral. While yes, it's true, Thomas Jefferson said legality and morality should, key emphasis, should be synonymous. They are not always synonymous. In the case of slavery that she brought up earlier, I would argue that it was mind independent that slavery was wrong, and that was proven through multiple slave owners that lived in slave ownership states that had more than enough money to own slaves, but never participated in this action. And also the revolution that happened throughout the country that went to abolish slavery, right?
So you're not a Christian, right? You're an atheist?
I am a Christian. I'm a Christian, but I don't debate from an SBC faith, right? I debate from a purely non-secular portion. So that way, when I make my arguments, they're sounded because I believe my own Bible commands me not to mix religion and law together.
But isn't the Bible where are you getting your objective morality from as a Christian?
My objective morality, well, a little bit from my heart. I mean, if that's what you want to put it, Mr. Man. I would also say observation as well as just the normative stance. Like when I was born, I understood that I valued, breathing. I valued this experience that I'm having, this sentience experience that I'm having, and that any creature that can replicate this experience should therefore be more valuable than any other creature. That's why we even see people try to humanize dogs, cats, stuff like that, for kind of the same basis reason of that morality, if that makes sense.
I agree, but I'm stuck on why that needs to be objective, and that's not just a sort of agreement we're having, generally speaking.
Because I would say the experience of this objective agreement that we're having is something that we have reached prior to this agreement, right? Because I didn't need to talk to you for us both to independently have this belief, and independently believe in this belief, right? So that would prove that it's mind independent, because by this same belief that's in me, that it's also in you, that we value anything that can have this subjective experience of me and you, and this sentient experience of me and you, and we value anything of that likeness or anything that's exactly like us higher than anything else is independent to every single mind in this world, so meaning that would be independent from your mind.
No, what you said is an oxymoron. For something to be an objective agreement, that's contradictory, right? An agreement is a mind-dependent statement, right? I'm going to agree with you through some sort of like mind statement, which
Well,
aligns
that's
with
why.
my... Yeah,
That's what I'm
so
saying. It exists prior to that agreement.
yeah,
Not prior to this agreement.
what's the evidence that without even without the opinion of like you get me cases of like, oh, people had money but still didn't do it, like under a subjective hypothesis. So let's say objective morality didn't exist. What you said can still exist under our worldview.
I mean, it could. It absolutely can. But I would argue that just humans are born with this morality.
Wait, being born, okay, we're born with preferences, and I think those preferences will explain our intuitions, and those intuitions will ground our like moral statements. That doesn't make it objective.
I would argue that preferences and morality are interchangeable with that birth. Because while you're birthed with these preferences, morality is just a strong preference.
Wait, okay, with these strong preferences, these preferences are not universal.
Yes.
Damn, I'm about to be dog walked again. I hate it. I concede.
Oh, wow, okay.
No, because you actually backed me in the same corner that Duncan got me on. I couldn't argue out of it against Duncan last time.
Well, is there anybody on here who say, let's Mr. Mann or whatever? You said you're a Christian, right? And so, do you think that you should be able to enforce your objective morality, which comes from God? Do you think you should be able to enforce that to all humans?
Do I think I personally should?
Well, like our society. Do you think legally speaking that we should just have laws that say the objective morality that comes from God is how we govern our society, or should it be what our society collectively agrees upon? And that's
no. It should not be what it should not be what our society collectively agrees upon. No way.
Why not?
Well, because that's mob rule, and that gives no respect to the minority.
But how is it better to have like 1% of the population determining what
It's
the
not.
life is?
You're not having 1% of the population determine. You're not having anyone determine it. It's already been determined.
No, but not everyone agrees that it has been determined. Only the people under that faith. And by the way, not even like all Christians agree on that. It's like a bunch of different. There's like a billion different sects of Christianity. So.
But not a single. There's not a single sect of Christianity that believes that human beings don't have a right to exist.
I don't actually think that's true.
No, he's right. As far as I'm aware.
Even if God existed, right? When you're saying that, okay, democracy, rule, mob rule, it doesn't give respect to minorities and vice versa, right? So why should we...
That's one reason.
Well, yeah, and then you would be also against the minority of people. Let's say rich people making all the decisions, you'd probably be against that as well, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So why should I have to listen to the minority, the number one God, and what I should do?
Well, here's the whole idea. Okay, if you don't have a standard by which to base your laws, then the laws are up to who's ever in control of the law. So in this country, my country, we have a constitution. It's a constitutional republic, meaning we are not ruled by democracy. We are not ruled by mob rule or by the majority's opinions at the time. We are ruled by a supreme law, which is a document that lays the foundation for all law.
They still have to interpret that constitution.
So by this logic, we're doing what God decided what we should do, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So how is that different from a human doing it?
How is it different from a human doing it?
Yeah, so if a human decides, oh, you should do what I want.
I'll explain.
Yeah,
I'll explain. You see, if you leave God out of it, right, then the highest authority is the government.
Right.
Okay. That means the government answers to no one. And the government could do whatever they want to the people.
That's currently how it is.
Wait, who does God answer to?
God answers to no one. He is the highest authority.
So what is the difference?
The difference is God is infallible. God is incorruptible. God is someone that we can't bribe Do you understand? He's unchanging. What is right will always be right, and what is wrong will always be wrong. And it's not going to change to the whims of the people or the popular opinion.
I think the biggest concerns are that some of the things that we try and depict are what God wanted for us is in huge confliction, right? Because the interpretation of the text is subjective. That's why we have some people saying, oh, it accepts slavery. And then some others will know it doesn't, right? And things of that nature.
Wait.
So coming to...
I could
like
tap
we
in
would-
on that one.
Yeah. So do you agree that when it comes to reading the text, the issue is that we have a huge diversity of opinion of what they actually mean?
No.
So wait, God has
I think you could misread text if you're trying to deceive. Sure.
Wait,
But that
so
doesn't mean anything. The
that
text
one
says
I-
what it says. It's very specific.
That one I could kind of tap in on a little bit. So God does have a preferred plan for you. Like, does God hope the best for you? Yes. However, God does not say that you will always go through his preferred plan, right? He gave you this thing called free will, which is an illusion of free will, because God knows every single outcome of which choices that you make. It's not more so the claim that God knows is going to make you go through one singular path. He has planned out every path that you could possibly go down, and he knows every path that you could possibly go down. He has hopes and aspirations that you'll go down the path that leads you to the kingdom of heaven. However, every single path is your own mind independent of what you subjectively are going to choose to go down.
All right, so then by this, so this could be the two issues here. So is it the case that the state's institutions and what we collectively agree on within our own free will should be the a conclusion and way we govern ourselves?
That's the important question here.
Of course
right,
not.
So
Yes, then that's because of the fact that the Bible's words that Caesar's law is not God's law, and God's law is not Caesar's laws. As long as you walk the path in light of God, that you should enter the kingdom of heaven. So I would agree with you that our consensus here on earth is purely for us here on earth, and the consensus of heaven is independent from the man's law.
now, Mr. Man, this is the issue I'm pointing out. We already have you and Prairie having two major different views on how. Do you think he's misreading what's going on? Then we're having
No, what I think's happening is that you're not recognizing that the Bible is not the Constitution. And the Constitution has respect for the divine creator instilling us with fundamental rights. And I say fundamental, meaning they are the baseline. It's not telling us that you need to not eat meat on Fridays. It's just telling us that all human beings have an equal right to exist here. And that's how we're going to govern our people, based on our divine right to exist. Now, when a person comes up and says, listen, I don't think all people have a divine right to exist. I think the law's protections should not apply to certain individuals because I want to harm them. Well, that's why we
You're
have
gonna get
these
the
laws
lies
to
taken down
protect
saying that.
individuals from psychotics like you and other pro-choicers that want to
You
unalive
literally
certain
just said
people
that you're the
on
psychotic.
whatever their preference is.
Wait. Do you think that so the people who made the Constitution was man? Now they weren't governed by God in the same way of like Moses, right? Or anyone who influenced the text or wrote the text, right? So is man infallible? Okay, yes. So these people who wrote, guess what? Man made these laws, and you're saying that we shouldn't listen to man, we should only listen to God. So why should I listen to the Constitution?
Well, and to help out
Because the
with that before you
Constitution is
respond-
based on God's law.
Oh, so we
Well, here's
should
the thing.
listen
Wait,
to
wait,
man
wait.
as long as they base it on God's law, correct?
Wait. So
With respect to God's law, why not?
Great. So it's based on the interpretation of man, right?
Yeah.
As long as they're referring to God's law.
I was trying to help him, but also help you.
It
and he
is
just dug
based
himself a
on
hole.
the fundamental understanding that all human beings have a right to exist. So if you disagree with that fundamental truth, then what you're saying is no law has any authority over me at all.
That's not
And
true.
you're just discounting all law. Of
That's
course
not
it
true.
is, because all law is based on the fact that human beings have a right to exist.
I would
It
argue
based
that
certain
law has
rights-
authority based on the enforcement of that law, right? If you don't have the enforcement of the law, then the law itself has zero authority. It's based on the enforcement of the law. So God's law has the ultimate authority. Why? Because he has the ultimate consequence of your ever-ending life, right? Your eternal life at that point can be enforced to either go into the kingdom of heaven for a great reward or be damned for eternal fire in hell, right? That's enforcement. When you talk about worldly enforcement, it depends on enforcement. We see this pretty consistently in society, right? And when we talk about political legalities, let's say an example, jaywalking. It's not really an enforceable law. Nobody really enforces it. Or even false reporting, right? Not really an enforceable law. So is that law really in play if it's not enforced as much? I would argue no. But then again, the laws for, like, say, murder or even diddling a child or rape, are those laws constantly enforced? Yes. So therefore, the enforceability of these laws would make them more severe and more practical and would stronger in their beliefs.
I don't see why it's entirely relevant, because the main concern is that, one, obviously there's an issue with, in my case and many other people's cases, we see that there's a lack of evidence for God in the first place. But if we accept God did somehow exist and there was like a good evidence to suggest it's true, there would still be issues when it comes to interpretation being subjective. Now, you can have an issue with, like, for example, we have disputes about whether gravity is a certain way, even though gravity is something about objective things. But when enforcing it into law is the problem, where if we go wrong and we're saying that we should enforce laws just based on the interpretation of a text, I think the best way to go about it is to go based on our preferences. Yes, it can lead to some consequences, the same as it led to terrible consequences when it came to those who were going on crusades, right? Raping, colonizing, etc. Still led to the same issue, even though we
The Crusades were justified.
Crusades.
Wait, do you think Crusades referred to the Bible to try and justify their acts?
I don't know. I support
The
my
Crusades were
ancestors.
justified.
You think the
I support my
wait?
ancestors.
Yeah. What was the question? Shadow. What was the question?
Basically, do you believe that the Bible justifies them?
I didn't say that. I said that man referred to the Bible in order to justify the Crusades.
Hold on,
Well, I don't
really
know,
quick.
but
Shadow,
I-
are you 18?
Yeah, I'm 21. I'm
Okay,
a
just
woman.
making sure.
And I also want to help you out a little bit, Shadow, before you rebuttal him. So you've constantly, like, made this fallacy that I kind of want to point out. It's just because of the fact that certain moralities tend to line up that you pointed out. Like an example, it happens to be a morality that thou shalt not kill, and we happen to also write a law in legislature that is that
Thou shalt not murder.
Y'all shall not unalive.
Unalive.
Sorry, unalive.
I corrected myself. I corrected myself for you protecting.
Sorry.
So thou shalt not unalive, right? And we happen to implement an unaliving law, right? Doesn't mean and doesn't prove that this law came stove from the Bible. It just happens to be a happy little coincidence that both of them came together. Because there's also multiple theologies that are not Christian that also believe in not unaliving another human life, and also command you not to unalive another human life. So without the substantial evidence to show that this came from the Bible and that these forefathers wrote this while reading the script and literally made this happen, then you cannot claim that this is stemmed from the Bible.
Well, actually, I have a better response to that, because the thing is, it says thou shalt not unalive in the MUR term. It does not include self-defense, which would include somebody trying to take over your country or your religion, or trying to forcibly spread their religion very violently. And also, there was a section very early on in Genesis where it specifically says that if a man, referring to anyone obviously, if a man spills blood, you must spill his.
Wait, do you think the Crusades
So
were
it counts
justified?
self-defense.
Absolutely.
Or defense of
Okay.
another.
Do you
What
think
were you
that
saying,
Missed
Bill?
though. So again, those same laws that you just quoted out of the Bible are also written in the Torah, also written in Buddhist text, as well as the Islamic text. So
They are not
again,
contradicted in the New Testament, though, as far as
They're-
I'm aware.
they're not contradicted in the New Testaments of the Torah, nor even or in the new books of the Torah, because there's no New Testament of the Torah, and they're not contradicted in Islam, and they're not contradicted in Buddha either. Buddha
Also-
is consistently valuing human life, and that you shall not unalive, and that you shall be able to defend yourself. There's some Buddhists that believe in the tenfold rule, that karma is real, which is kind of a bastardization of Hindu. But at the end of the day, there are multiple religions that echo the same exact belief system. So that in itself itself, again, is not proof that this stemmed from Christianity. So until you can show me the original author of these laws that read this Bible, the specific
Prairie.
Christian Bible, and wrote these laws off of it, you cannot argue that this stemmed from the Christian Bible.
Prairie. I
hold on,
am
hold
not.
on, hold on.
I do not believe in the Torah. I believe
hold
it's
on,
all
hold on.
the Bible. Sorry. go ahead.
Hello. Who's talking? I think Shadow's trying to say. I'm not sure you're trying to say this. But I think the Western world was influenced by Christianity more than those other belief systems.
Correct.
I think is that what you're trying to say?
That's part of it, yes. But I was correcting something that was being said about the Bible as well.
I see.
Yes.
Even
And I personally am not a Jew. I do not believe it in the form of the Torah. I believe it in the entirety as the Holy Bible. I do not follow Islam. I do not follow any other religion. I was raised atheist, yes, and I turned to Christianity on my own, and I was an abolitionist when I was still an atheist, and then I became religious later. And I am converting to Catholicism.
Yeah. So do you think that when it came to the Crusades and like babies and like children being unalive, do you think that was justified?
I only can speak on the parts that I know about.
Do you think that during the Crusades that you don't know whether some children were unalive during those events?
It's highly possible.
Right. If it did happen, would you be against it?
Yes, I would be against those parts.
Right.
Just like I would be against the Vikings doing certain bad things, right? But I would still love the Vikings because I am also part Viking. You can support your ancestors without supporting the bad parts or bad things that they've done because every group has done bad things, correct?
Great. So they used it.
I mean, you understand that the Crusades were an act of self-defense, right?
Yes.
I don't. Incredibly false. Like there was some evidence of colonization of the Crusades.
Islam
You're
was trying
crazy.
to take over the world, and it was an act of self-defense.
Same as
against
Europe
being
Christianity.
wiped
had
out.
all but
Same
Europe
as
was
Christianity,
almost
always
gone. It was almost completely under Muslim rule before the first Crusader even drew a sword. So I don't know what you're talking about.
What do you think the British done when trying to colonize the entire Earth? Right.
Was that a deflection from what I just said?
I'm not
'Cause that-
denying that when it comes to those who are following the Islamic religion, that there was forms of colonization. But this idea that it's just first come, first serve, like they were there first, therefore it's self-defense.
No. The idea is it was self-defense. Are you denying
Yeah, I
that?
deny that all cases of crusading was self-defense.
Then you're nuts.
Hold
hold
on.
It's objective.
He didn't say that. Wait. He didn't say all cases. He said the main purpose of Crusades was to combat Muslims, right? Because those lands were Christian prior. So that's what he's trying to say. He didn't say all cases.
Okay.
That's the main.
It was a response to Muslim aggression.
Right. Yet we have many examples of crusades, right, in which they've invaded a country prior to them even invading their country and then unaliving their children, unaliving the women, and then raping their people and taking over the land.
And where
You'd have to cite the source.
Okay, great.
Because it was mainly fighting back against the scourge of Islam.
The scourge.
Yes, it is.
Yep. Almost as bad as the scourge of the Talmudic Jews.
Oh no. Are you Natsuk, by the way?
Am I
Are you
what?
Natsuk, National Socialist?
No.
Oh.
I don't believe in socialism at all.
So you don't know what that means then, because that's literally like the Yahtzee Germany people were not so.
Yeah, I know. They were called the National Socialists, and I don't believe in socialism at all, even when it's national socialism, especially if it's
Wow,
national.
well, you said the Talmudic Jews thing, so.
I believe on local socialism, like in your own household. If you want to divvy up your brownies, that everybody gets one
hold on,
brownie.
This is
I
off
don't give
topic,
a
actually,
shit.
and that was my fault. I shouldn't have brought that up. So back to whether law should be able to determine whether a woman has the right to choose or not. We never could agree on objective morality. That everybody is saying, yes, this is the objective morality. We can all agree upon that and base our law upon that. That's the main issue here.
Yeah, the main issue is that you can't agree that we shouldn't unalive babies, which is the problem. Because that should be an objective truth across
Should
the
be
board.
is not
Everyone
proof.
should agree that nobody has
Emotional-
a right to
this is
unalive
appeal-
little
yeah,
innocent
see, this is appeal
babies.
to emotion
But for
right
some
now.
reason, you got to dismantle the entire system of law we have. We have to dismantle human rights entirely just to make your worldview
No,
work.
this is what judges wrestle with all the time. This is what the Supreme Court justices wrestle with all the time. And you doing this appeal to emotion is not evidence of objective morality.
It's not an appeal to emotion. It's just it should be basic that the smallest, most innocent, and defenseless and helpless of us deserve our protection
You know what? I
more than
agree.
anyone.
I agree with you, but why is it objective? Why does it should be is not proof that it's objective?
Because we've already built layer on top of layer of laws in this country based on the fact that human beings have a right to live. If all of a sudden you want to dismantle the whole thing just so you can have your girlfriend unalive your baby so you don't got to pay child support, well, guess what? You got no leg to stand on here. The fact that you have to sit here and say, well, what is a human right? Does it even matter? Does it exist? Because if we could just say it doesn't, then we could do whatever we want to the innocent, helpless
so
people.
the source you asked me for, the capture of Constantinople, right, the Fourth Crusade, is an example that we often refer to when it comes to the exploitation of resources, the capturing of the state in order to impose their own Christian laws and worldview onto the people.
And I'll say this: free Constantinople. Make Istanbul Constantinople again.
Oh, what the hell? Right. So do you not think that the capture of a territory to exploit their resources, and that's Christian law, is some form of colonialism?
No.
Sure.
I don't know what colonialism is.
Well, he just agreed it doesn't even matter. He just agreed.
Yeah, but who's to say that there's something wrong with the colonialism?
Oh no! Oh no!
Do you think
What's
the laws?
colonialism? Is that where they cologne people or what?
Oh my god! Do you think that the laws are like now are just like like majority of states of the federal law accept the idea of colonialism being good?
What are you talking
Can I
asking
add
that
something
shit.
in a minute?
Colonialism has been agreed upon to be an evil by all like modern societies.
What do you mean?
Who said that?
What do you mean? Who said that?
That sounds like something a
it's not
liberal would
allowed.
say.
It's like NATO would like stop you from doing it.
Yeah, because we've already drawn out all the lines of our borders now.
That's not relevant to
There's
colonialism.
been borders before.
Well, hold on.
Why would you need a colony if you
Well, hold on, though.
if all the nations are
What
already
the fuck
carved
are
up
you
already?
talking about?
Well, I mean, I see both sides of the argument. Like, to Mr. Mann's point, there isn't a stitch of land on this entire globe that hasn't been conquered and colonized at one point or another, if not more than once. But to the other point about NATO getting involved, who is NATO? And would you say is there any bias in NATO?
No, of course there is. I was just saying that because he was talking about the morality of children's rights and stuff, and then the other guy was talking about colonialism, and then they couldn't even agree that colonialism was wrong. So this guy's morality is all over the place. That's the issue.
Well, I mean, and so that, like,
You
I
haven't
understand
justified
that,
why
but-
it's wrong.
Well, I understand that, but like, I mean, to say that like the world has agreed that colonization is bad, well, then how did Russia invade Ukraine?
And it's universally condemned by pretty much every country in the world.
Yet it stood. So I'm confused on
What do you mean
on
it stood?
how. Yeah, it stood. Has Russia not annexed part of Ukraine?
No, of course they have, but we weren't talking about political games here. We were talking about whether they condemn it morally or not.
Sure, it doesn't, but it doesn't matter. It still stands.
Wait, Duncan, the main, I look, sure, I think that Horizon's statements are a bit confused there in terms of universal. It wouldn't be universal, but Mr. Mann is saying that we're trying to deconstruct everyone's like laws and like try and justify like pro-choice agenda. But even like this is the case throughout time where we've tried to deconstruct laws that were some sort of like collective agreement of like slavery institutions, right? Or those who were trying to like rape people or like allowing the homicide of like LGBT, right? Majority of the world allowed that and accepted that to happen. Now we've changed.
What fundamental law allowed that?
Wait, you don't think that when it came to cases of in United States, we've allowed individuals to unalive homosexuals before the 1800s? Are you crazy?
What are you talking about?
It's a question.
What fundamental law allowed unaliving of anyone without just
Wait,
cause?
do you not think that the unalivement of slaves were allowed?
You can't answer a question with a question, dude.
Look, I'm going to agree with one thing.
But infidel, to be fair, all right, that is a little that's a little burden shift there. Like,
Wait,
clear.
I understand what you mean, right? Well, I'm confused. I'm just stunned that you think that that I'm fine with going.
Oh, so your argument is that it's
No,
wild.
Mr.
That's
Man,
wild.
I'm going to get a source for you. I'm
I'm
going
in
to get a
shock.
source for you, but I'm just shocked that
Patient,
you
yes,
don't
it's
think
out.
that the United States allowed the unalivement of like black people, although there's some people in the LGBT. Like, what are you talking about?
What fundamental law allowed for the unaliving of innocent
All right,
people
be right back. Fuck's sake.
without just
Well,
cause?
he's getting a source for you, but I would say that there was no fundamental law that allowed that.
Okay. So that's the point. You guys are trying
He might
to
actually have one.
dismantle fundamental laws. Hold on. I'm talking about foundational laws of supreme law in this country. You need to change in order to make your worldview work, because your worldview is trying to justify murdering innocent little babies without any repercussions. So unless you could somehow justify that, you're not gonna. It's impossible. We have a supreme law. Every human being has an equal and unalienable right to
That's
live.
not a supreme law.
That is the baseline for all law. All laws are built on top of that understanding.
If that was
you
true,
remove that, then there is no law.
If that was true, then there would be no debate. There would literally be no pro-life, pro-choice debate in this country.
Well, there is none. It's just we have psychos that want to justify their satanic practice of ritualistic baby sacrifice.
Yeah, see, and that's also delusional, like straight up.
It's not delusional. What do you think you're doing? You're sacrificing a baby so you could have free time, so you don't have to pay. That's sacrifice.
That's
And
why
it's a
elective
human being.
abortion happens, because of, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it is, but I mean, continue to.
That's your best argument?
No, like, do you actually think
Yeah,
that elective
okay.
abortion happens?
You might as well just say that's
because
wild.
Just because people they just want free time, that's the only reason it ever occurs? I mean, seriously, you don't actually believe that.
You're trying to justify that those people have a right to unalive their baby. Just because they don't want to. Just because they don't want to have to pay for it. She wants to keep her body. The husband doesn't want to have to pay child support.
But to you, it doesn't matter, right? You said in the beginning, it doesn't matter what stage the pregnancy is at to you, even if it's one day.
I don't care what reason a woman has. I don't care what reason anybody has. There is no justification to unalive an innocent, defenseless little baby.
I know, and you've repeated that. But I'm asking you, you consider that.
Well, you can't disprove that, can you?
Conception, right? That's what you qualify.
What's your question?
Conception. Is that when you decide that it's the human life that they shouldn't be allowed to?
I don't decide that. That is a biological certainty that a human being manifests at the moment of conception. Prior to that, it doesn't have a complete set of human
Right, of
DNA.
course.
Therefore, it is not a human
Biology,
being.
yes.
It doesn't carry on all 8 life processes. Therefore, it cannot be considered a living organism.
Right. Yeah, so I wasn't speaking about biology there. Yes, of course, it's a biological.
What the hell are you talking about?
I was speaking about people. If it was just agreed that all biological human life had value, objectively speaking, then there would be no debate here. The issue is that many people say that there is not value, at least value that can overwrite a woman's value in her own autonomy. A lot of people would say that the value of, say, and maybe they would even agree with you after like 20 weeks or 24 weeks or something, but prior to that point, they would say that it's the value of a woman's autonomy is more important than the value of the very like beginning of human life DNA.
Well, then guess what? That is flying in the face of all of our fundamental laws that strictly state that human rights are equal and unalienable. So there is no one is more valuable than the other, because all human beings' lives are equal
You can
under the
keep
law.
saying that, but again, we would have no debate about it, and then you just say everybody's mentally ill. So this is sort of the impasse where this conversation leads to.
Yeah, because what you're trying to say is that all the supreme law isn't true. We don't have to follow it. It means nothing. We could write our laws based on whatever I feel like
Facts.
today. But no, we have a supreme law that defends our right to exist, and all human beings have the equal right to exist. And if you're denying that, then you're denying supreme law. You're denying our whole system of
All
government.
right, I'm back with some information. So we have slave codes in which Virginia slave code, and let me read the date.
Wait, what?
1505. Anyone who resists their master. Let me read the rest of. To resist their master, and then it says 2 words. I need to. If you really want me to read them out, that's fine. Shall die. Right. There was many slave codes in which they would explain that those who resisted or tried to escape, right, were to die by these slave owners.
Wow, those were codes?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Were they and they're still in effect today?
No.
Oh, wow. What, do you mean they must have been found to be unconstitutional?
Wait, sorry.
You just owned yourself, Mr. Man, so hard you don't even know.
You said there was no laws that allowed this.
I said there were no fundamental laws, meaning constitutional laws that could possibly allow this. So those codes were in violation of supreme law, which is why you don't see them today, because once they probably got in front of the Supreme Court, they were ruled unconstitutional. And that's the system we have here. That's the process for eliminating unconstitutional laws, because laws are illegitimate if they violate the Constitution. They are to be determined null and void.
Okay,
You said the Bible was perfect. That's what you said. You said the Bible was perfect.
The hell? What does that have to do with this?
Okay, I think we need to move on at this point because we've been at this for a while.
Because they don't want to accept it.
I mean, I've seen Hart before on another panel, so we're just gonna move on.
Well, I think we reached an impasse there. Really, like, there's nowhere to go from there if he's denying that the debate is even real. You know.
I mean, I think we should move on. I entertained this for quite a while.
The debate is real. Listen, just because you want to deny the Constitution, you want to deny the existence of human rights. The fact is, if you need to do that to make your point make sense, well, then you've already lost the argument because you have none. What are you arguing here? That we should eliminate all laws so you can unalive babies?
Hello, host. We got to move on. I've let this go on for quite a while. We got to move on to the next one.
Yeah, let me just butt in a little bit. So, Shadow, stop claiming to be a Christian. I'm just gonna say bluntly. No, it's the first time. No, shut the fuck up. It's really getting to the point where I'm not gonna about it. This point, because I'm being nice. I've been nice up to so many points, and she really just keeps going in circular arguments. I'm trying to be nice about it.
Not though.
You cut me off. So, I mean, you cut me off multiple times. So guess what? You dumb fucking bitch. I'll say this bluntly because I will say this. The host is speaking. That's what I'm fucking.
No, okay. Enough name
are not needed.
No name calling. We're moving on. Next person. Hart has joined. All right. I assume you're pro-choice. So what is why are you pro-choice? A panel can weigh in on this. And one at a time, guys. Otherwise we're gonna get dropped.
I'm pro-choice because I respect the agency and autonomy of pregnant people, and I want to point out that the prompt right now that says my body, my choice leads to cannibalism and blah blah blah, all of these things have existed since like the dawn of recorded history and have absolutely nothing to do with abortion or respecting other people's autonomy.
Wait, hold on.
I want to add one other thing. I might not agree with Shadow, but I will not tolerate men speaking over women in this panel and calling them names. That's insane.
Oh, shut up, lady.
Our voices matter more than men's.
Everybody mute up.
Get over it.
Everybody mute up. First
everybody talk over her.
I'm not going to allow anybody name calling regardless of the gender. This is irrelevant. And second, the prompt, right? The way that people define, or the way that some pro-choice define bodily autonomy, is they should be able to allow to make these decisions, right? So there are people who think cannibalism should be allowed because it's a choice. I have even given reductios that people should be able to, right, like create a child SMEX robot and have SMEX with it because this is a choice. So this my body, my choice leads to these things because they believe. Well, not all pro-choicers, but some of them do believe these things should be allowed because of autonomy. And more importantly, how do these things affect other people? Like, how does watching child porn affect other people? It's not another person's body.
Pairing child.
Can I add something really quick?
Insane. I'm just gonna say that. It's just
nobody is comparing the.
Oh, it's just wild. Great argument.
It is the principle. It is the principle.
But Shadow was trying to.
Wow, that's wild.
She has to say.
So on my part, I honestly don't care about the gender thing. the name calling for whichever side is wrong, in my opinion. I do appreciate you trying to support me, thank you, but I don't believe it's about gender here, to be honest.
I think it was, to be honest, but he left or got kicked, so it's kind of irrelevant now.
I don't believe so, but yeah, it's irrelevant now. Anyway, continue on.
I hear you saying. I respect pregnant people's autonomy, agency, and most importantly, their logic and respect. And I view them as an actual critical thinking human being that's making the best decision for themselves. It's really that simple.
And again, the prompt, as I was saying, Holy, how do you define autonomy?
You mean, how do I define autonomy?
Yeah, how do you define it?
Textbook definition or like my personal one?
Yes, either or, I don't care.
And yeah, my personal opinion is that people should be allowed to do what they want with their own body so long as it's not in violation of another human being's body. And I know that y'all are about to say something about, oh, well, isn't the fetus another body? Correct. I don't deny that it's a separate human being. I don't deny that it has its own DNA. I don't deny any of that. However, it's already inside another person. And we as a society have decided that consent matters when it comes to being inside another human being. And and I'm not done speaking, and that consent can be withdrawn at any time. And that if that consent being withdrawn is not respected, then force can be used to remove that person from your body, even if it means lethal force. We already know this.
Wait, you're saying society agreed upon it. Okay, what if society did not agree upon it? What's your stance then? You're saying what society says. This is a very bad area you want to go into.
I mean, are you gonna sit there and pretend like it's okay to be inside of another person's body without their permission?
No, you're the one who's making the claim.
When I say society, I acknowledge that we as a society and it's just objectively moral to say no one is allowed to be inside of your body without your
what's the argument for that? Objectively, what's the argument?
Unless they're your child and you're gestating them.
So I just want to be clear here. Y'all are trying to argue. Y'all are trying to argue with me that it's not immoral to be inside somebody's body without their consent. That's what y'all are trying.
It is never immoral for a child to be gestating in their mother.
But they're a human being. They are a human being.
Huge shock. Host is talking. Host is talking. Again, moving. This.
I mean, very rarely do anything more than like a
hello. Oh my goodness. Hold on. Again, we're investigating your stance, not the other way around. You are the one who has to justify abortion. Now go on.
I don't know how why should the mother it is wrong. It is wrong to be inside another human being's body without their consent, and that the person you are inside of can give you their consent and withdraw it at any time. And that if that consent being withdrawn is not respected, that person has the right to remove you from their body by any means necessary.
Wait, what do you mean they have the right? Again, what's the argument? You're making a lot of assertions. What's the argument for that?
I hope you realize that you're using the same logic as a rapist right now.
Wait, what's the argument that you have a right to do this?
Because they are inside of my body.
Okay, well, why does that matter?
I think she did something here.
What is the argument that you have a right to do this? Can you even define what a right is?
I absolutely can. And my body, as y'all love to talk about,
that wasn't my question.
I love to compare bodies and temples.
That wasn't my question. I asked for the definition of a right. Now define it. If you're claiming that this is a right, surely you can define a right.
Literal textbook definition, a right is something that is good.
Wait, something that is good?
Morally good or justifiable.
What? Okay, how do you decide what is good?
By dictionary definition, a right is something that is morally good and justifiable.
No, that is not the definition. It's a moral or legal entitlement. I don't. Wait, how do you determine what is good or justifiable?
You mean my personal way of determining it, or society, or the textbook? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, just how do you determine what's justifiable? How is this justifiable?
I mean, an action that you can justify.
Okay,
That
but
is
how
justifiable.
wait, how is it justifiable? What's the argument that it's justifiable?
How is it justifiable
Yeah.
to defend
What
yourself?
justifies it?
What justifies defending yourself against somebody being inside of your body without your consent?
Yes.
That's the question that y'all are asking right now.
No, what justifies murdering your child who's in your custody in your
No,
womb?
that is not what you just asked. You just asked, how is it justifiable to defend yourself from somebody being inside of your body without your consent?
Well, I mean,
that is insane.
So-
They are
No, we're
inside
talking
of your body.
specifically
They are
a mother
already-
and her
they're
child.
Can I get in
they're
here?
already in violation
Let Duncan
of
go.
my body, and therefore I have the right to defend my body by any means necessary.
Again, assertions. What is the argument that you do have this right? You're just saying that you have the right. What's the argument that you do have this right?
I don't know how else to explain to you, but they are inside. If you are inside somebody else's body, you are
You're
reliant
just describing
on
where
what
they
they
are.
want, and that if you're not going to do what they want because you're inside of their body, then they have the right to do whatever they need to do to get you out of their body.
Again.
I'm not going to. The fact that y'all are pretending.
You're just
The fact that
presupposing
y'all are
this.
pretending like this is
Again.
some kind of new concept is insane because we already
No,
grasp this concept when it comes to
again.
SA. We do.
You're making this
We
assertion
already
that you
grasped
have
this
this right.
concept.
What is the argument that you have this right? You're just making the assertion over and over again.
Okay, well then tell me why you don't have the right to remove
Wait,
somebody
why
from
are
your
you
body.
burden shifting?
Oh, I
Why are you
can.
burden shifting? This is your stance, not mine.
Because it's insane to have somebody try to provide burden of proof to the claim that, hey,
Yes.
I can do whatever I want to you if you're inside my body without my permission.
Yes.
I don't, you know,
You're
I don't even,
supposed to-
you know what? Fine. If you want me to define a right, I say fine. I don't have that right. I have the biological human animal instinct to unalive you if you are doing something to me without my permission that I don't want.
What? Okay.
That means nothing because I could say the same thing about you, and then you'd have nothing besides who's the strongest.
See, you're still comparing it to just this random activities, and I'm specifically describing essay.
I'm just using your
If somebody
logic.
is essaying me,
Well,
if someone
I'm
is
not
essaying
talking
me,
about essay.
if someone
I'm
is
talking to you.
essaying,
Yeah,
well, that's what
nobody's
I'm
talking about
about.
SA, lady.
That's exactly
You just
what I've been
installed
talking about.
that to try to make
That's
some
what I've been
That has
talking
nothing to do
about
with
this
abortion.
whole time,
Guys,
guys.
one at a
No, you
time,
have
one
not.
At a time, one
So
at a
you're
time.
saying, wait. So you're saying you're okay with essaying your child? Is that what you're saying? Because you've been talking about your child. Like, that's weird.
No, I've made it very, very, very clear that anyone.
But if the child's the one in your
who is
body and you've
inside-
been talking about
Calm
SA,
down,
that means you've
calm
been talking
down.
about
Let me
essaying
finish.
your
Let me
child.
answer your question. Let me answer your question. 'Cause
No,
I'm
no,
about
be
to answer it.
consistent. Be
I have
consistent.
already made it very clear that no one has the right to be inside another human being's body without their permission.
Wait,
or
are you
consent.
saying the child is
That
essaying
includes-
you?
That includes children.
Are you
that
saying the
obviously-
child is essaying
that
you?
obviously
Guys,
includes
one
that,
second, one
that
second.
parents do
Heart-
not have the right to essay their children.
Heart,
Duh.
1 second. Heart.
But they have a right to
M.
unalive them?
You can't exactly like use something ridiculous like that. I'm gonna be honest.
Yes, I
Like,
can actually.
it-
Because
it's
I used her
funny.
logic.
It's funny, okay, but
No, I can. I can.
you guys are like just over talking each other.
No. She made a claim. She made a claim, and I just installed her logic to it.
Wait, let MM say his point. Let MM say
Yes.
let
So
him
she made a
talk and
claim.
then
Wait,
you
wait,
respond,
wait.
okay?
Hush, Shadow, hush. All right, she made a claim
not
that
hush.
she's talking about
Do not
SA.
hush her.
Okay. Yeah, I will hush her. And I'll hush you as well.
Aw.
She made a claim
You
she was
think
talking
you're
about
going to
SA,
know?
and the whole time, all she was talking about is the right to remove the child in utero from her body. Where does SA play into this? Because from my understanding, if you use SA, who's SAing who in this scenario?
I want to be very clear, since y'all weren't grasping what I was saying, even though I already said it previously. I was talking about SA the whole time. I am applying the same logic that we applied to SA to abortion. We already agreed.
Okay, but the
we
baby isn't
already
essaying
agreed.
you, so it
We
doesn't
already
apply.
Oh, I
agreed.
see what you mean. Okay,
Yes.
carry
Let
on.
me
Sorry.
explain
See what I
it
mean
further
now?
without this
Yeah.
and crying and throwing a temper tantrum. What
So
I am
who's
pointing out-
SAing who in this scenario?
Well, if you calm down long enough for me to answer,
I'm calm. You
you'll
need to answer
know.
the question. It's not that hard.
No, you don't sound calm at all. If you were calm, you would be silent and allow me to answer.
No, I'm not going to
I've
be
made it
silent
very-
while you say ridiculous
I've
stuff.
made it very, very.
Who's
very
saying
clear.
who?
I'm about to explain to you. If you can just
Who's
unbunch
saying who?
unbunch your tighty whities and let me answer. And
Who's
you'll
saying
know.
who? Look at these wild
Hold on.
insults.
Order in here. Let her answer.
Yeah, but she's also making
What I have
wild
made it
insults while
very
she's saying
clear.
stuff. So how about this?
What I have
Tell
been
us
saying-
who's saying who.
What I have been saying this entire time is that no one has the right to be in another human being's body without their consent, and that consent, even if it was previously given, can be withdrawn at any time.
All right, how is this
And I'm
essay?
still not done talking. Shut your mouth.
How is this essay?
And I'm still not done talking.
Stop
And that
monologuing and
consent-
get to the point.
That consent can be withdrawn.
Get
at
to the
any
point.
time.
You're just making presuppositions.
Okay.
You're not justifying
Well, if
anything
y'all
you're
could
saying.
Just unbunch your tidy whities long enough for me
Wait,
to
guys,
answer.
one
You
second,
will
one
have
second.
the fucking answer.
You just keep saying the same
Well,
thing.
then let me get to it. Let me get
One
to
at a
it.
time. One at a time.
I find it so interesting you only say that when the women are talking, but not when these guys are talking.
Wait,
If you
I
can
was- I was
He's saying it to them too. He's saying it to them
MM
too.
Keep MM and Mr. Man silent long enough for me to answer, and they will have their answer. So as I was
No,
saying,
he did
that
tell like
consent,
he
that
did tell them
consent-
to let you finish.
that consent can be withdrawn at any time, and if that consent is not respected, the person withdrawing the consent can and will use force to remove you from their body, and that includes lethal force if necessary.
You said this already.
applies.
That doesn't
Oh my
justify
God,
it.
y'all.
Mr. Man,
You're
one
begging the
Calm down.
question.
Let
Mr.
me
Man, one
finish.
second.
This applies to
All right.
both SA and
First.
abortion.
Okay,
Yes.
let's go with
So
consent
That's
then. I'm
all
gonna
I've been
press the
trying to say
consent
this
thing. Hold on,
whole
let me
time.
press the
Hold on.
It's my
consent.
fault that y'all have not been
All right,
paying
let me
attention
press
to
her
us,
consent thing.
and that you use
Hold
cognitive
on,
dissonance
one at
when
a
it comes
time.
to abortion.
Now she's not
So,
letting me respond. All right.
Wow,
So-
wow. You mean I matching your energy? How sad.
Hush there. Hush there.
Fuck you,
Guys,
Wildflower.
stop. All right.
I'll drop
Guys,
myself.
all right, hold on.
Then drop yourself.
Let me respond to her.
Yeah. Let MM respond to her.
All right. Can you consent to a biological process? Yes or no?
No, but you can take precautions against it and treat
Sure,
it.
sure. When you take precautions against something, what are you acknowledging when you do this?
The possibility that it might happen, and that
So-
I will take the appropriate action that I
Yeah.
choose if it does happen.
Yeah, so you're understanding there's certain ramifications that could occur. And in this situation, we're talking about another entity or being coming into existence, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So this begs the question, when do we give moral consideration to this entity?
When the pregnant person tells you to.
That's not an argument.
Yes, it is.
Make this argument make sense. Give me your P1, P2 in conclusion. Go ahead.
Could you repeat that? I couldn't hear what you
Yeah,
just said.
give me your P1 and P2 and your conclusion using that argumentation you just gave me. Go ahead.
So you're confused about respecting what a pregnant person wants.
I'm
That-
asking about moral consideration of the child in utero. Could you please give me a direct, clear answer that we can all understand? Go ahead.
I made it very clear that I will respect that the morality of this fetus inside a pregnant person when that pregnant person tells me to. If they tell me that, hey, I want to have this kid, I want to give birth, even if I don't want to raise it, I want to do this, then yeah, sure, then we will give.
This
more
doesn't give
consideration for
me
it.
a,
If
this
they
does
tell
not
me no,
give
if they
me a
tell me no
point.
and that they want to get an abortion, then okay, fine, I'm going to respect what they want and I'm going to support them through getting an abortion. It's really that simple.
All right, this does not tell me when this child in utero receives moral consideration. This tells me that
Oh, it's because I
when
don't
you're
do
willing.
it in utero. I don't
Yeah.
do it in utero. It's when it's
Oh,
born.
so it's birth.
Yeah,
All right. What's magical about birth that gives moral consideration? Go ahead.
because it's now separate.
So it's about being separate. So would you say like to conjoint twins like don't have moral consideration because they're not separate?
Well, they each have moral consideration.
But they're
and I
not
was going
separate.
back. One is not reliant on the other.
Yes, they
They're
are.
reliant on each other. Like you're.
No, there could be one
What I'm
dominant.
specifically, you're comparing a fetus, which is 100% totally reliant on just the mother, with conjoined twins that are reliant on each other.
There's
for
a
survival.
dominant.
It's
There's
not
typically
even
a
close to the
dominant.
same thing.
No, there's typically a dominant. One's more reliant on the other. Why does that one not get more consideration? Because they're not separate.
Because again, you are pretending that these are the same thing, and they're not. They are reliant
you
on
said
each
separate.
other.
You said separate was
The
your
mother
determining
is not
factor.
reliant on the fetus in any way, shape, or form, and you are correct. Yeah, I did say
All right.
separate.
You said separate. I'm testing your principle.
You are correct.
Be
Yes, if
consistent.
you let me answer, you'll get one. So yeah, I said separate, and obviously conjoined twins are an exception to that rule, but they are reliant
No
on each
exceptions.
other.
This isn't
The mother is not reliant on the fetus. You are making a false.
So now it has
comparison.
nothing to do with separate. It has to do with
Wait,
dependency.
No,
hold
I'm
on,
pointing out that you're making a false
Hello, host
comparison
is
because
talking.
it's not
Wait,
the same.
hello, host is talking. MM specifically stipulated that one was reliant on the other, so this would be analogous of pregnancy.
No. He said dominant. He said one was dominant. That doesn't mean that it's not also relying on the other one. They are both relying on each other for survival.
Irrelevant.
A pregnant person is not relying
It's
on
really
the fetus
irrelevant.
for survival. And in fact, the fetus very often poses a threat to the pregnant person's life. Every pregnancy
Wait,
poses
so we've
a threat
concluded now
to the
that the
person.
being separate is irrelevant. It's about dependency now. So tell me about dependency.
No, I made it
necessary
very,
for moral
I made it very
consideration.
clear.
Tell me what's necessary about dependency for moral consideration. Go ahead.
I made it very clear that it was about
No,
separate.
being
The
separate just fell
dependency-
apart.
the
Being
dep-
separate just
no,
fell
no, no,
apart.
no, 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 no,
You
no,
just-
no,
you
no.
just pled to dependency
Dependency
afterwards.
is the exception.
No, you just
Dependency is the
pled to
exception because
dependency.
Because you are pretending
Yeah.
like this is a super common
Yeah,
thing.
you
and
just
it's
pled
not,
to dependency.
And we are not going to base
You just pled
out
to
of this on
dependency.
something that's extremely rare, which y'all
You're
don't
being
do. Y'all don't
extremely bad faith right now.
Okay, well then if we're going to base things off of extremely rare circumstances, then I say then there's absolutely no reason why abortion should be denied at any time because late-term abortions are medically necessary.
Right. So again, tell me about what about dependency gives us moral consideration? Because I would say a newborn is very dependent as well.
Yeah, you're still pretending that a fetus and a newborn are the same thing.
They hold similar dependencies actually. A newborn's
Okay,
going to be
well
100% dependent on
paint a
somebody
picture
to
for you.
provide
Let me
for them.
paint a picture for you then.
All right. So
I
tell me
can
about
set- I can
dependency,
set
which
a
is what
baby
gives us
down.
moral consideration.
Let
Go
me
ahead.
paint a picture for you. I can set a baby down for an hour. I can't set my pregnancy down for an hour.
Irrelevant. We're arguing dependency.
It's actually very relevant.
Oh, what about dependency gives us moral consideration? Go ahead.
Well, you're comparing the partial dependency of a child with the 100% total dependency of a
Okay.
fetus.
Again, you're not answering my question.
Yeah, because it's a stupid question.
No, it's
And
not.
keep
You
trying
pledge to
dance around all of
dependency.
these things,
No,
and you're
no,
trying
no,
to
no,
make
no,
me,
no, no.
You're trying
You
to make
told
it something that
me.
it's not.
You told me dependency is what mattered.
No,
That's
no,
why
no.
it was at birth.
You decided.
No, no, no.
I
You
said it
told
has
me
to be
that.
Separate. I said it has
Yeah,
to be
and then when I pressed separate, you went to dependency.
No, you went to dependency.
You changed and pivoted away from separate to
No,
dependency.
no. I made it very
Yes.
clear. I made it
Now
very
tell me why
clear.
dependency
I
matters.
made it very clear that my standard was separation. You're the one that brought in this extremely
No,
rare
I'm
circumstances.
using your
Oh my
stance.
God. Let me finish.
Then
You're the
use
one
your
who
stance
brought in-
correctly and don't be dishonest.
I'm not being dishonest, but you do need to
Everyone
shut
on
your
here
little-
knows
you need
you're
to
being
shut your
dishonest.
little mouth so I can answer
No,
you.
then be honest to
Hurt,
the
can you
debate.
please stop disrespecting people? Like we've they
This
did
whole-
it a couple
this
times to be
whole
fair too.
life
Okay, but
is
you've been doing it the
disrespectful.
entire time repeatedly.
Yeah, I'm gonna match the energy that I'm given. I'm
No,
not
but they're
sorry
not. He's
about
not
that.
giving you that energy.
I'm actually matching
You're
her
just telling
energy.
him to shut up
Yes,
for no
he's
reason.
very much.
All
I've
he
matched
said
her
at one
energy.
point was shush to me, which is not the end of the world. That's the only thing that could come to mind, and instead you're just constantly being rude to him and telling him to shut up for no reason. Like, can you please just
There
like
is a-
give him some respect?
There's a very specific reason I keep telling him to shut up, and it's because he keeps asking me these questions, and then because he doesn't like the answer, interrupting
You're
me
not
rather. Yes, I am. Just because you don't like the answer doesn't mean I'm not.
No,
Y'all are
you're
seeking.
pivoting.
y'all
That's
are-
what's
No, I'm
happening.
not.
Yeah,
No,
you
I
are.
am not. Y'all are seeking very simple answers to a complex problem, and I don't
It's
give
not
simple
complex.
answers. Yes, it
It's
is.
not complex.
No,
Yes,
it's not.
it is.
You
No,
have
it's
to
not.
Allow
make
me
it
to-
complex
allow me
to be
to
logically
elaborate then.
consistent, and that's even falling apart. So
I'm actually being very logically consistent.
Right.
Y'all
You're
just
not.
don't like
And he's
it.
I'm
pointing
going to
that
show
out.
you. I'm going to show you how this went. You told me being separate
No, I
was
don't need you.
necessary
I don't
for
need
moral
you to explain my
consideration.
own logic to me
All
because you
right.
didn't even let me finish.
And then when I pressed
Allow me
your
to finish.
separation
Allow me
aspect
to
of being
finish.
separate,
Part,
Allow
take
me
your
to
own
finish
advice
my
and shut up
point.
for 5 seconds.
Guys,
Take your own
Y'all
advice.
never let me even finish my rebuttal against him. I made it very clear that my standard was being separate. And then he said, well, what about conjoined twins? And I said, Okay, yeah, let's talk about that. If you want to talk about conjoined twins, then we can talk about dependency. However, it's a false comparison because even if there is a dominant conjoined twin, they are still reliant on each other for survival. The mother is
not
not
true.
reliant.
No, it's true.
See how he didn't even let me finish. The
No, because
mother
it's not
is
true,
not
Heart.
reliant.
You're making incorrect
It's,
claims.
y'all still aren't letting me finish. It is 100%.
No, because you're making incorrect claims.
Still doing it. The mother is not reliant on the fetus for survival in any way, shape, or form. It is a
Actually,
false
it helps her.
comparison.
It helps
That's
her
always
survive
true.
better.
Again,
Women,
again,
women,
again, this
women
goes
who
to show why does
women
dependency
who have
matter?
abortions are more likely to unalive themselves. For example, they're
Again,
more
this
likely
leads
to
us to
become
the same
crime.
question. What does dependency matter?
Hold on. I think someone was trying to say her claim was false. So,
Well, I'll be clear. Is
I was saying that, so that's not true. That sometimes the mother is actually dependent on a pregnancy, like women with autoimmune diseases, right? Pregnancy, the stem cells from pregnancy, there are women that actually will have children just so that they can live longer due to their autoimmune deficiency. They rely on the stem cells that they get from the child. So your claim is not true. It's not like the mother's not dependent on the child. In some cases, the woman actually is dependent on the child.
an extension of life is not the same thing as being dependent on them for life.
How?
But they need the stem cells for you to say that, like, basically what you're saying is that they're not getting anything back and it's just the mom sustaining the life, is what you're saying. And that the mother is not dependent on this pregnancy and what she receives back from this pregnancy, which this is not true in all cases. Sometimes the mother is dependent on that, actually.
No, my stance is that they are not dependent on this fetus for survival. And to suggest otherwise,
Just pointed out a situation where it is dependent on their survival so that they can survive.
Had you not interrupted
So I just
me,
pointed that
would
out.
have- Had you not interrupted me, I would acknowledge what you had just said. Yes, you did make a case for how being pregnant might extend your life, but it is not preserving your life. It is not causing you to have life. It is not doing any of those things. It extends it, but it is not sustaining.
I don't think you're
And
tracking
it's
what I'm
also
saying.
and it's also worth pointing out that if you want to talk about stem cells, then it doesn't even really have to be from a pregnancy anymore. Might have been historically, but now we have ways to administer stem cells to people that doesn't involve a
Stem
pregnancy.
cells come from?
It comes
Where
from
does stem cell research come from?
typically aborted fetuses, but recently science has discovered.
Oh, right. So stem cells comes from
So
aborted
let me
fetuses.
finish. So let me finish. But recently, scientists have discovered that stem cells are contained within your menstrual shedding every month, and so very soon we were going to be using that to collect stem cells as well.
Again, to conclude this, the argument was separation. When I pressed on separation, she went straight to dependency. So this is why I questioned dependency. This is just a pivot she made, and I'm questioning the pivot. All right, can you address why dependency matters?
I cite back my original point.
So dependency does not matter, is what you're conceding.
No, I'm not conceding anything. Y'all are keep trying to extrapolate my point out from what it originally was, and my point is and always will be the person who is pregnant has to consent to being
Okay.
pregnant,
I'm
and
gonna ask-
therefore they can,
right,
and
I'm
they
gonna give you a
also have to
hypothetical.
consent. Let me finish. They have to consent to that pregnancy
We
continuing.
understand
If they
you
don't
can't consent to a
the
biological
pregnancy-
process.
Okay, well then then I want
Right.
to point out that
Second of all, I'm
your-
going to question your consent with a hypothetical.
No, you're not, because
Yes, I
you
am.
interrupted me. You were interrupting
No,
me.
you're just
I'm going to
monologuing
point
the
out-
same thing we've already
No,
heard.
no. I'm going to point out that you are
So-
correct. You can't
Yeah.
consent to a biological process, and growing within a womb is a biological process, and therefore you cannot consent to it, and therefore somebody can do whatever they want.
That means you can't remove consent. So consent's not the relevant topic here. But regardless of that, if we go on consent, I could easily give you a hypothetical to test your consent on bodily resources as well. Okay, this is what I'm going to give you. We have a cryptically pregnant woman. And just for your scenario, we're going to make it there. They were SA'd and they got pregnant from this SA. However, they did not know they were pregnant because they're cryptically pregnant. They go on a vacation where they go into like this Alaska. They're snowed in. They're going to be stuck here for a period of time. They have enough resources for themselves, but they give birth to this child here. They don't have baby formula or food like that, but they do have their breast milk. are they obligated to feed this child their breast milk, or can they allow it to lay there and pass away? Go ahead.
Well, first of all,
guys, hold on. I'm gonna be right back. So Elizabeth is gonna mod in the meantime. So I'll be right back.
when I said obligation, no, because obligations are enforced. That cannot be enforced. If they're out there alone, that cannot be enforced, and nobody will ever know what happened. Would I hope that they would? Yeah, but if they don't, and especially
What
if
ought they do?
especially if they're struggling to survive on their own, they can't provide the breast milk, then it's perfectly understandable.
In my hypothetical, she can provide the breast milk. All right. Should she ought to provide the breast milk? And if there were authorities to come there later to find and she did not, to find the unalived child, should she face legal consequences?
She would need a lot of therapy.
That's not what I asked you.
She would need therapy.
That's not what I asked you.
And I gave you my answer. She would need
That's
therapy.
not what I asked you.
Not legal consequences. She
that
would
doesn't
need
require
a lot of therapy.
No,
That's
she
not
would be
what I
making
asked
a
you.
conscious decision not to feed this child.
Could you
She has
please
the ability
answer
to
what
do
I
it.
asked you?
She has the
did.
ability to feed this child and mentally and physically chooses not to.
Saying therapy does not answer my question.
I did answer your question.
No,
I
you
said
did
that I
not.
would sincerely hope that she would, but I can grasp
she?
that nobody
Okay,
can force her.
one second,
in
one
this
Should
second.
she?
Heart, you
And
did a
second,
non-response.
should she face legal consequences if she doesn't? Is what I asked you. Can you please answer those two questions?
I said she should go to therapy.
You're not
Legal-
answering my question.
Wanting having
And
the,
one second,
okay,
one
fine.
second.
Let me answer.
Heart,
Let me answer.
Heart.
Oh my God.
Heart, you did a non-response, which is an answer designed to look like you answered his question, but in reality you were talking about something else. You weren't actually talking about what he specifically was asking. It's a hypothetical situation. He's asking specific things. You have to answer specifically what he's asking. You can't say specifically, oh, she needs therapy. That's not legal. He's specifically asking about legal consequences.
Okay.
Should she be charged with the murder or at least neglect of this child if she consciously chooses to not provide sustenance for it outside of the womb, which is your standard? Ought she be prosecuted for that?
I would think definitely a conversation needs to happen with the police. I don't know if it would be like abandonment or murder or neglect or something, because it would be a very, very, very weird and specific case. And one that the authorities, quite frankly, would never actually know the 100% truth behind, because she was there alone without any aid.
So ought they charge her with the unaliving?
I agree that she should sit down with the police and figure out things that are going on. However,
did something
should she be
wrong.
charged, should she be charged with murder is a little bit other conversation, because it's still her body. She didn't know what was going on. And most importantly, we don't know what's
So
you're just completely
you're
bad
admitting. You're
No,
admitting.
because
Wait.
y'all
She's
don't-
admitting
no,
something.
no,
She's
you
admitting
didn't let me
something.
finish. No,
you're
you
admitting
didn't let
something.
me finish.
You're admitting
No,
this
because-
woman
no,
did something
no,
wrong
no,
if she
no,
neglects and
no,
does not
no,
feed the
no,
child,
no,
correct?
No. You will let me finish. If you're going to paint this hypothetical picture, then you're going to allow me to put in whatever hypotheticals I want to.
No, it's my
no,
hypothetical.
We
You don't
don't
change
know the state of her body
You
afterwards.
do not
if you neglect
change
it.
my hypothetical.
Okay, well then fine. I'll point out the information that you didn't provide. You didn't
No.
provide it.
You can't do
Bruh.
that.
No.
That's called
You're
being
the one. You don't get
dishonest
to move the.
and
No.
bad
You're the
faith
one.
and moving
You're
the
the one that's
goalposts.
being bad faith.
No,
Let
I'm
me
not.
make this easy.
Allow
Let me make
me
this
to
really
finish.
easy. Heart, hold on.
Allow me
pause
to
for a
finish,
second.
because
Let me
you
make
didn't.
this really easy.
No,
So-
y'all didn't
no,
let
hold
me
on.
finish,
Everything's
so I'm not
easy.
going to let you
Everything
finish.
went perfectly.
No.
Everything went perfectly.
No,
She
'cause
has.
now you're
she
moving the
has
goalpost.
ability.
No, now you're moving the
this
goalpost.
was the
I am
hypothetical
not
Heart.
going to sit
This
here and
was
let y'all
the
do
hypothetical.
this, where you
No, Heart.
create all these situations, and then when you don't get the
You
answer, you,
are
like, you add
changing
on until you get the
goalposts.
answer you want.
Okay, let me ask you another question.
Because y'all didn't say
okay?
anything about the state of her body after birth.
Yeah, so
I
she's
said she had
irrelevant.
enough
You didn't
resources
say,
for
perfectly
you
herself.
fine.
didn't say, yeah, having
She's
resources
perfectly
for
fine.
survival doesn't mean she's
Yes,
not
that means she's
broken.
going to be fine.
Yeah.
That means
No,
she's going to be fine.
it doesn't.
Yes,
Okay,
it
You're
fine.
just
does.
bad
She has all,
faith.
okay, so
You're
fine,
bad
fine. She
faith.
has all the resources for her survival. Fine. That doesn't really help her if she broke her hip during childbirth.
All right,
and
that's
so
not what's
it's
happening
this is-
in the
It doesn't
hypothetical.
account for her.
I would have told you that if that happened. All right, so quit trying to change my hypothetical and being dishonest And how about this? You've already
I'm just
admitted.
no.
You've already
I'm simply
admitted
not
a
allowing you to
conversation needs to occur
simplify
with the
something
police.
that
Wait,
is
I'm not done
inherently
yet.
complex.
I'm not done yet.
Heart, let him finish.
I'm not done yet. You've already
Oh,
admitted.
sorry, you'll never let
yeah,
me
yeah,
finish,
yeah, yeah.
so I didn't.
I would
You
if you
go
would
on
let
for
me
10
finish.
years.
I
You
would if
never
you
say
would.
anything simply. You go on for a freaking monologue, and then you're like, you're not letting me finish. You land your plane, and then you repeat like a broken record.
All right. However, you've
See how
already
you just said
acknowledged.
I'm too complex?
Yeah, no,
You
you're
just
not
admitted
complex.
that I want a simple answer to a complex
no,
problem.
you're- you
That's
mon-
not how this works.
Let me
That's not how this
finish.
works at
Let me
all.
finish. Actually, I don't think you're that complex at all. I think you're quite simple-minded. However,
I was talking
that's,
about
that's
pregnancy.
irrelevant. That's irrelevant.
No,
to
no, no,
this.
no. I will not accept an
No,
insult.
that's
You
irrelevant.
made it
You
very
insulted me this
clear.
whole time.
No,
So
I
hush.
didn't. I did
All right?
not call you any
Yes, you
kind
called
of
me
name.
a lot
I
of
didn't
things.
insult your intentions.
You called me a lot of things.
Yes,
All
you
right?
did.
I told
That's
you to be
irrelevant.
quiet.
It's
I told
irrelevant.
you to
My
be quiet,
perception of your
and I told you
intelligence.
to
That's
shut up and all
irrelevant.
those things. But I have
All right.
made
It's
no comments
irrelevant
about
what my
your
perception of your
intelligence,
intelligence
and I'm
is.
not going to
Okay.
listen to anything else you have
All
to
right.
say because the
This is
host
what I'm
made
going
it
to tell
very
you.
clear you're not allowed to insult me, and that you would be kicked if you insult me.
However, I'm a mod. So it's great.
Then
I'm a
you
mod.
insult
So
me.
how about this?
I'm not.
I will continue to mute you while I talk because I'm a
Oh, then I'll
mod.
just. Okay, well then fine. I'll just turn my volume down and you shut the hell up.
All right. Now, as we were going on, I was going to tell you, you've already admitted a wrong maker in this situation. You said because she had to talk to the police, you're already admitting a wrong action if she deprives this child. Therefore, this acknowledges that she should and ought to give her resources to this child in utero. Therefore, supporting my claim and not yours, leading to a pro-life conclusion. Thank you.
And then I have a question in a minute for you, Hart.
Talking now.
I have a question for you in a minute because you brought it up a lot earlier, and I haven't heard anybody talk about it. So why do you believe that consent can be revoked?
Because it can.
How so?
Because if somebody is taking an action, especially with another person, and then says, okay, you can do this, and then maybe they change their mind, they don't like it, they're hurting them, whatever reason, they say, hey, I don't want you to do this anymore. If that person doesn't stop, they are in violation of consent. That consent can be withdrawn at any time. And if they
During
continue
the
to do so, they
process.
are inflicting harm upon another person. When they are doing something without consent, they are harming another person. Point blank.
Okay, so yes, I agree. During a process, if you change your mind on something, if you're doing an act, during it, you can change your mind on the consent. However, if certain batter enters you while doing that act, and you had consented previously to the act, you consented to the pregnancy. And if you consented to it, the entire act, and there is no quote-unquote safe form of it, by the way, there's safer, just to clarify, even if you do it the quote-unquote safer way, there's still a risk that you acknowledge that you are taking when you do the act. And so you inherently consent to it, and like was brought up, and you acknowledged you cannot consent to a biological process. Certain act has a chance of resulting in a pregnancy, and you have to acknowledge that, and that is a form of consent when you engage in it.
Okay, well then by that logic, if consenting to SMEX is consenting to pregnancy, by that same logic, you are also consenting to a miscarriage or an abortion because you know it's a possibility
No.
that could happen. Yes, you
No.
are.
No.
You know it's a possibility that could happen, and therefore, when you take on the act, if you don't interrupt
Abortion's
me,
a new
I
act.
was literally just about to explain to it. I was literally just about to explain to it if you couldn't.
Abortion's a new action, actually, so no, that doesn't track.
So, as
Is
I was
abortion
saying,
a biological process, or is miscarriage a biological process?
are y'all going to be silent long enough for me to actually answer your question this time?
Answer the question.
Okay, fine. Congratulations, and I will answer. So you said that you know that you might get pregnant when you have SMEX, and therefore, because you know that's a possibility, therefore you consented to it. By that same logic, because you know there's a possibility of a miscarriage or an abortion, you consented to that.
What? That's not what I asked. That's a non-response.
No, it's the same. Like, it's a very clearly a response. You just don't like it.
No.
You
Here's
asked
what I
me.
asked.
You
Here's
asked
what I
me.
asked. 1 second. I asked, is abortion a biological function, or is miscarriage a biological function, process, whatever? Which
They
one
are
is the
both
biological
bio-
process
they
that
are
might
both-
occur versus you?
They are
doing
They
something.
are both biological
Shadow.
processes, and you shut up. They
I
are
said
both
shadow.
biological.
I didn't say shut up. I was telling Shadow something. She's already actually admitted that consent's irrelevant in my hypothetical. So she's actually already like,
Oh, so you think so? But then by that logic, you think it's okay to grape someone?
no.
Okay, good to know.
No.
You have the same logic as a rapist.
No.
What? Yeah,
You
do.
just false
That's what you
represented
just
another
admitted.
thing by entering a new
That's
state.
what you just admitted.
False
Hold on, yeah, that
representation.
doesn't
False
follow.
accusation,
yeah,
by the way.
That doesn't
That
follow.
doesn't follow. What's the argument
No,
for
it
that?
very much follows.
Yeah,
It's
what's the
the
argument
exact
for that?
continuation of the
Yeah, then
logic
what's
that
the
I shared at
argument?
the very beginning.
What's the argument?
The argument that I presented all the way back when I first
No.
joined.
For this person being a rapist, go ahead. What's the argument?
Oh, no, I didn't. Sorry, I want to be very clear. I didn't call him a rapist. I called him sharing the logic of a rapist, to be clear.
Yeah, what's the
He
argument for
said
that?
that he thought it was okay.
No. What's the argument for that?
The argument for that dates back to my original point, and it's that as a society, we already know and we've agreed upon that if somebody is inside of you without your permission, even if you previously gave them consent, you have the right to withdraw that at any time. And if they don't respect you withdrawing that consent, then you can remove them from your body by any means necessary, including up to and including lethal force. And if
Yeah,
human
except
beings,
you're-
and if fetuses are human beings, like we have all agreed that they are, then by that logic, it also applies to a fetus because it's a human being and does not have the right to be inside another human being without their consent. Point blank. Period. The people who think that it's okay to violate someone else's consent and be inside their body without their consent are people who think like rapists. They either are or think like rapists.
Yeah, this still doesn't
That's the
follow.
point that I've
You're
been making
also
this entire
you're also
time.
going to need another argument for premise one. Premise one is presupposing a principle be in place and agreed upon. What's the argument for premise one?
For my first point is that it is not okay to be inside another human being's body without their consent, and that they
Yeah,
can
that's the
withdraw
premise.
the
I need the
consent.
argument.
They withdraw the consent at any time.
I need the argument.
And if you
I need the
disagree
argument.
with that, and if you
I
disagree
need
with
the
that,
argument.
you're sharing the
I
same
need
logic
the,
as a
I need
rapist.
the
That is
argument.
my argument.
I need the argument for that.
I just gave it to you. Get over it.
That's
You're
not an
not
argument.
explaining.
That is restating the premise. I need the argument for that.
Okay, well then give me an example of what you're asking for then.
Yeah, it's going to be another set of premises that is going to lead to the conclusion you just laid out.
Well, not another explanation, which is what you accused me of doing. So give me an example.
Hey, real quick. I'm working, so I can't stay here very long. But I literally just had one hypothetical for Hart, and I want to see if she can answer it. So Hart, let's say that you go to the casino to go gamble, right? And you're a really good gambler. Like, let's say you are like 98% successful. Like, you will always win. You don't really ever lose. And so you go to the casino to gamble, and while you're gambling, and then so you go there to gamble, and you end up losing all of your money. Like you completely lose it all. You actually lose this time, but you're really good at it, but you lost. Do you have the ability, or would you say you would be justified then if you went to go rob the casino? Because you don't, and because you don't consent to losing, or you have withdrawn your consent to losing?
The act is already over. You cannot remove
Exactly. That is
over.
literally our argument. The act is already over. You are now you're now pregnant. Hold on. The act is over. The act is over.
He doesn't have
You're
much
now
time. Let him
pregnant.
finish.
I'm sorry. Let me answer you very specifically.
Hold on. The act is over. You're now pregnant.
The pregnancy
You cannot
is an
then
ongoing
withdraw
process.
that.
Hart,
It's
he
an
literally
ongoing
just said he
action.
has limited time. Please let him finish.
You the
And I answered his fucking question.
No,
so what's
no,
your
no,
goddamn
you
You
problem?
can after he's done. Just let him finish really quick.
You
Please.
said the process
It
is
just
already.
collapsed.
Yes, you said the process is already over. The process when you have SMEX, that is the process, and the biological product of that is pregnancy. So I can't then say, just like when I go to a casino and I gamble and I lose all my money, I then can't go in there and rob the casino and say, well, I didn't consent to losing, or well, I withdraw my consent to losing. No, the act is already done. You gambled and you lost. Now you have to live with the consequences. That is the same exact thing as pregnancy, and you just admitted that. And with that, I'll leave because I got to go back to work.
Great. Run away. Have fun. Anyway, what I
Okay,
was
no,
trying
I
to
wanna- I wanna hear
By
your
the way, he has work. He has responsibilities.
I want to
Okay,
hear
then
your
go.
I want to hear your response
do
for a
it.
second. Just
No,
go
go
ahead and
do
cope with the response.
Okay,
Cope
fine.
with the response.
Okay, fine. Then I will respond to you. Yes, I don't deny that SMEX is one act, but Pregnancy is another, and it's not over until you give birth. So you're comparing something that has a finite end of however long it takes you to lose all your money with a 9-month process. It is
Which is also a finite end, dumbass.
Yes, yes, I did.
That's
I
a
did.
finite end. 9 months is a finite end.
If you had let me continue, you would know that I was just about to acknowledge that it's also a finite process, but it's a much longer finite process than however long it takes you to gamble your money away or how long it takes you to get pregnant. And it's
Why
a
is that
whole other
relevant?
thing that it's a whole other action. And if it's not an action, then therefore you can do absolutely literally whatever you want to your pregnancy.
What?
If it's not another
What?
action and process that you're going through.
What?
That makes zero sense. Like, I hope you know
You're
that.
you're the one, because in this comparison, you're gambling and then you're done. You compared it to SMEX and pregnancy, which is SMEX
No,
and then
you're not
pregnancy.
gambling and then you're done. You gambled and now you have to deal with the consequences of now having no money, which
I'm
is
sorry,
also
but babies aren't consequences. Fetuses are not consequences. Do not use them to punish
your
other
argument is that there are consequences. What the crap are you talking
Yeah,
about?
wait, Striker. To be
Y'all are
clear,
use- y'all use
consequences.
fetuses
Hush. To be clear, consequences would be a poor choice of wording here. I would say outcome would be a far better stretch
Okay,
of
yeah,
the
but
analogy
fine.
to say.
Yeah, we'll go with
Yeah.
outcome. The analogy is still the same. The outcome is now you have no money. The outcome of Schmex is now you are pregnant or you are not. So it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter if pregnancy is an ongoing action, like you said. It's the outcome.
Which is a
You can't.
whole
You can't.
separate
That
ongoing
doesn't-
process that you can withdraw your consent to by ending
No,
it.
you can't. You cannot withdraw your consent to an outcome.
You can.
How do you withdraw
Okay, well then fine.
consent
If
to?
consent,
how do you,
if consent,
how do you withdraw consent that you never had?
oh well then if there's no consent to be had ever, then there's absolutely nothing wrong with removing the
Wait,
fetus at all.
wait, how can? Yeah,
Because
yeah.
they don't-
except-
I gotta go.
yeah.
I gotta go back to work, but I'll just let you
there
guys
and they
talk about
cannot
this.
consent
I gotta go back to
be
work.
removed.
Bye, Striker.
If there's no consent and you can't consent
Yeah,
to
what
a
is consent?
biological process, then literally anything I say, you will tell
What
me
is
I
consent?
am wrong. So you can just go ahead and tell
No,
me.
what is consent?
Go
No,
ahead
what
and
is
tell
consent?
me because I have given definitions on the panel and I've been told that I'm wrong every time.
I've done
So
no
you
such
can go
thing.
ahead and give it
If
to
you
me.
would like to treat me as bad faith with a really shitty attitude when I've done nothing to aggress upon you, that's perfectly fine. I can assure you, you won't like the outcome. What is consent?
Oh, honey, I already don't like the outcome of this debate because it involves the removal of agency of pregnant people. I already
What
don't
is
like it.
consent?
I've already told you tell me the definition because even though you personally
So
might
you're
not have
conceding that
corrected
you
my
don't know what
definitions,
consent is. I'm
No,
not
I'm
sure why
conceding
we
that I'm
would
not
be
going to
using
give it
words we
to
don't
you.
understand.
I conceded that I'm not going to give it to you because I'm tired of being corrected and told that I am wrong. So I'm not going to give it.
Yet I've done no such thing. I don't understand why you would hold me to
You're
this
not the only
standard.
person on this panel. Stop pretending you are.
Hold on.
Well, yeah, I am the only person within this box that is glowing blue currently that has had little to no interaction with you at all. And what I have interacted with you has been incredibly charitable and incredibly respectful. So now, what is consent?
Get over it. Who?
Yeah, this cunt is just absolutely bad faith.
Yeah,
Someone else can go.
Absolutely not.
Wait,
Absolutely
hold
We
on.
can't use that language.
Hello, who's this
Oh, I
talking?
absolutely
It's a
can. I
perfect
absolutely
example.
did, and I
Hello,
will
No, you
continue to
cannot.
do so.
Entire attitude of the
Hello, who's this talking? So you're gonna answer his question, or you're gonna get dropped because you're not engaging, right? He asked you a question to define consent. I don't know why you're using this word you don't know the definition of. We had this problem with the other guy who defined abortion as a right. If you don't know the definition of a word, why are you making this claim that it is this thing? Now continue.
repeatedly. It's not that I don't know the definition. It's just that every time y'all have demanded a definition of me on this panel and I give it to you, you come up with some weird way to tell me how I'm wrong and get really twisted about it. And I'm quite frankly really tired of playing this semantics game with you guys when y'all know my point. But if you're really that desperate for it, consent is you have to give permission for something to happen or an agreement for something to happen.
Thank you. It's that simple. Thank you.
In any other given social setting, you may be able to treat others around you that have done nothing wrong for the aggressions of those that have wronged you. But here in this instance, I'm not going to stand for it.
and I will match your energy.
Okay.
W,
Well, Duncan, let me clear things up. I treat
I don't
y'all this
need
way
clarity.
because
I just need the
clearly you
definition
did.
of consent.
I literally just gave it. Literally
I'm
just
sorry.
gave
What?
it.
Yeah.
And
What was it again? Can you repeat it?
I will finish what I'm about to say, and then I'll say it again for you.
I'm not concerned with the meta. What was the definition?
So anyway, as I was pointing out, the reason why I am
Not concerned with the meta.
aggressive
Can I
and
get the
nasty,
definition of consent? I don't care about your
I've already
personal
given it to you.
circumstances.
It's not my
What is
fault
your
that
definition
you.
of this? Is
I
just bad
literally
faith.
just
The fact
gave
that
it
the
to you.
mods are still here, just allowing this worthless woman to just ramble
Absolutely
with
not. I
nothingness,
have not
is
called you
absolutely
worthless.
insane.
This is exactly why, because this is the entire
No one
premise
cares.
behind the anti-choice.
Consent.
Is this
Definition.
logic?
Go ahead.
Is this logic that people
You
don't
have no logic. What's
and that
logic?
you're rude and disrespectful,
What is
and
logic?
then wonder why I'm rude and disrespectful when your whole
Yeah, what
premise
is logic?
Answer his
What is
question.
logic?
Just restate your definition. That's
I already gave it to him. It's not
Then
my fault he wasn't
restate
paying
it.
attention. It's not my fault that he can't grasp that
That's
consent
hurt.
needs your permission to
Hurt.
do
I have
something.
ADD. Sometimes
Girl.
I don't listen when people tell me stuff. There's
Guys, hold on.
sometimes just reasons people don't listen, okay?
You don't listen when you ask a question and somebody gives you the answer.
Hey, Pink Heart, can you say it one
Sometimes-
more time? Can you like tell us one more time what it is? Like, we want the actual definition. We don't want a personalized definition, right?
I gave the exact definition.
Wait, Kenna wasn't here. Kenna asked the question. He wasn't
Yeah,
here.
please.
And
I
if
was
you
asking
hadn't-
because I
and
wasn't
if
here.
you hadn't interrupted me, host, I was literally just about to give it to you or to her.
No, because you
Consent.
had to
Yes,
be
I was.
corrected. Heart, you had to be corrected.
I was literally
Because I wasn't
just
here.
about to give it to you. Consent is permission for something to happen or an agreement to something. That's simple.
Is that
Okay,
all?
thank you.
Is that all the definition entails?
Go ahead and Google it if you have another question. I gave
I'm
it to you.
asking.
Obviously, it's a lot more complex than the dictionary
Sure.
definition, but you
Can
asked
you
for the
outline it
dictionary
then?
definition. No, 'cause
I
you
need to
asked for the
understand.
dictionary definition.
I didn't. No, I didn't. I asked
Yes,
you
you
to
did.
define consent, and nowhere
And
in
I
that
just
sentence would
did.
it even. Oh my God! I'm going to tell you something
See,
you've
this is
never
my
heard
exact
before
point.
in your life.
This is my exact
Shut
point.
up!
No, I've
Jesus
got 10 minutes.
Christ!
I've got 10
Now,
minutes left.
in the
I've got 10
sentence,
minutes left in my lunch
in
break.
the sentence,
Order.
in the sentence, give me your definition. In the sentence, define consent. Nowhere would it even be implied. I was referring for some scholarly source of this. I'm simply trying to gain an understanding of what
Protect.
you know consent to be.
I'm going to hop onto my other account so I can have mod powers so I can help you control this.
All right, that's fine. I mean, I've entertained this for quite a while. I think we should move on. Just finish your piece because this is kind of. I've entertained this for quite a while.
Move on. She doesn't understand consent. We
No.
can move on.
I want to make it very clear that this is my exact problem with providing a definition, because this is what happens every time is I provide you with a definition and y'all and cry and whine about how no,
Yeah,
it's not, no,
because
you
you're-
want more, no, all of these different things. And that's why I
Sure.
was hesitant to do it in the first place. And
Yeah,
even now,
so-
and you told me you wouldn't, and now you're doing exactly that because I've given you
Yeah,
the
I'm
definition
sorry
of
you
consent.
lack
And I've
the
given
ability.
you the definition of consent,
Yeah,
which is the permission
sure.
for something
Yeah,
to
no,
happen
yeah,
or the
sure,
agreement
sure,
to something, and you're
sure,
still not
sure.
happy. You proved my
No
point.
one cares. Sure. Listen, I'm sorry you can't handle having a worldview critiqued and being pressed, but that is what actually would define you as like a rational human being of higher rationale. To be able to have a worldview, have it critiqued, and then make necessary adjustments to refine it. The fact that you can't have this pressure, you can't handle the pressure of having something that's inside of that pea brain of yours actually challenged.
Absolutely not.
It
This
is
another time
insane.
when
Not at home
that's
each
not going to
other.
happen.
I'm sorry, Kenna. Respectfully, she dug at me first. We will be matching energy moving forward.
Respectfully, I'll tell her the same thing.
All right,
Hey
this
guys,
right
just
here.
stop
All right,
doing
guys.
it to each other. Guys,
All right,
Shadow, you don't need to tag in.
Hold on. All right, we're gonna move on. This is going nowhere. I allowed this to go on for long enough. We're moving on.
Host, I have a question. Why have you allowed these people to repeatedly insult me when I have
I'm
not
trying to keep
insulted them?
order. I'm trying to keep order here. I wanted to.
Clearly you're not, because you let them insult me.
He didn't.
You haven't
I
insulted
literally
me?
said stop.
Duncan literally just insulted me.
You don't think you've
and the
insulted me
host
this whole time?
All right.
I haven't insulted anyone.
Yes, you have.
You have.
We're gonna have to move
But I
on.
haven't.
We're gonna have to move
What
on.
have I said? What have I said? How have I insulted you?
We have to move on.
The silence is
I literally-
deafening. The silence is deafening.
I do not want any ad homs. I had that in my previous prompt, so I want you guys to respect that. All right, now we're moving on.
Thank you.
I got 5 minutes left in my lunch break, so.
I mean, if you want to say your your pieces, or your last piece in those 5 minutes, you can. If you want your closing statements, you can.
Yeah. My closing statement is that if you don't think that you have the right to remove somebody within your body without your permission, then you have the same logic as a rapist.
Wait.
That is the entirety of my point. As people, as human beings, we have the right to remove other people from our body if they are there without our consent, without our permission, and most importantly, even if we gave our consent previously, if we don't want them there anymore. Anything less than that is the same logic as a rapist. Point blank period.
I don't see how this connects.
Yeah, that's a very bold claim, because you're claiming that I have the same mentality of a rapist, that Duncan has the same mentality as a rapist, that Elizabeth has the same mentality as a rapist, that MM has the same mentality as a rapist, and Shadow has the same...
Yes, I understand that. That's why I
Okay.
said it. And I say that because...
So you're going to call
because-
someone who's... Okay, so I'm going to tell you this, Heart, very nicely. You're going to compare me to someone that has violated consent of others, that has put their body parts in someone else's body, right? Someone who has been raped, someone that has been done this, that has a stance on we shouldn't unalive an innocent human within the womb, right? And then compare me to a rapist that has taken the livelihood of other people. What the fuck is actually wrong with you?
Well, I'm
And the
actually
crazy
happy you
thing is you don't even know what
I'm
a fucking
actually
rapist
happy you
is.
asked.
Wait,
Let
hold
me
on.
answer you.
Hold on, let me-
I'm actually happy you asked because I say this because anti-choicers have absolutely no problem labeling pro-choice people as schmurderers. And I say, fine, if you want to label us schmurderers, that's okay. I view you guys as rapists and you use this innocent child, this innocent baby, as the tool to essay the pregnant person.
Wait, what?
What?
That is my logic.
Yeah, except the difference is the argument of whether or not you're a schmurderer can actually be substantiated. What you've posited here can in no way, shape, form, or fashion be backed up empirically or otherwise outside of conjecture.
It absolutely can. It absolutely can because, again, as a society and as human beings,
Over an hour to do
we've
so, and
already
have yet
said,
to do it.
We've already said that you're not allowed to be inside another.
I'll say
human
this
being
though, if
without
you
their
haven't
permission or
become a
consent,
tap
and if
dancer
that
by
consent-
now, you should definitely apply somewhere.
Show me how it's done. You can do it first. We as a society and as human beings have already made it very clear that people are not allowed to be inside of us without our permission or consent. And that's outside of the law because if somebody is inside of specifically one of y'all are not going to allow them to continue to be there without your consent. You can withdraw that consent at any time. This same logic applies to pregnancy and abortion.
I don't.
You can't revoke it at any time because if you've already done the act, you cannot revoke it.
Pregnancy is another act as well.
No, it's
an
a
ongoing-
biological process that you cannot consent
okay.
to.
Well, then by that logic,
You
so
consent to the
is-
act which
so is
results
growing.
in it.
Okay. Well, again, by that same logic, if consenting to SMEX is consenting to pregnancy, then it is also
Wait, Matt,
consenting to
wait.
abortion or miscarriage because it's a known possible outcome.
Wait, hold on. She didn't consent.
An abortion is taking accountability for your actions.
No, it's not. It's literally the opposite. It's running away from responsibility because you chose an action, and suddenly, wham! I stuck the freaking stick in the bicycle, and I tripped on the bicycle, and I fell down and scraped my knee, and now I'm crying because I caused my own downfall. I caused this
So by
action
that-
to happen. Oh no! And I'm taking
by that same
responsibility
logic-
by blaming other people or by doing something that's completely irrelevant. Bruh.
So by that logic, if you
Wait,
were using birth control, I'm almost done. By that same logic, if you were using birth
Doubtfully.
control, you very much did not consent to that biological process, and therefore it's totally fine. for you to
There's
do
no
it.
time that you lay down with a person with a condom, with Plan B, with any type of contraceptive, and still lay down with that person. There is a chance of pregnancy because contraceptives are not 100%. You're not
And I
consenting to
agree.
pregnancy.
And
You
I
are-
agree, and that is why I cite back is that if consenting to sex is consenting to pregnancy, then it's also consenting to a miscarriage or an abortion. Because
Yes,
it's
exactly. Because if you consent to
is
pregnancy,
consent-
you consent to these. Like, if by your logic, you're saying, well, we consent to pregnancy, so we consent to miscarriages and stuff. Yes, because you know that there's possibilities of a miscarriage, there's possibilities of these stuff happening, so you do consent when you
the
do
possibility
this.
of an abortion. You know
Yeah,
the
is
possibility
consent
of an abortion.
is consent revocable in every instance?
It would have to depend on the instance, but if you're talking about an action that is 100% done, then you cannot revoke something that's over because it's already over. Pregnancy is not over until you give birth. So you can revoke consent
Wait,
at
that's
any
not.
time.
Wait, hold on. That's not the question. Is consent revocable in every instance?
I just gave you an answer, and
Yeah,
unfortunately
yeah.
for you,
The
my lunch
answer.
break is over.
Yeah, your answer. Your
is
answer.
over.
To be clear, your
My
answer
lunch
is a
break is
non-answer.
over. Get over it that you don't like my
by all
answer.
means,
I'm mad
go
about
back
it.
to fucking work.
Get over it.
Well, that's it.
Goodbye. Go back to
Moving
work.
on.
All right.
Not
Can
an
I just
airport.
call out? Can I just
Yeah.
call out something? Why is MM seductively cooking with his camera on?
Yeah, I entertained that.
I'm just not looking.
I entertained that for way too long. She wasn't answering the question, so we're moving on. I apologize. I allowed that to go on. Anyone else want to request up? Anyone else want to request up?
There's a couple people asking to request up not that long ago.
Okay, then I don't see anybody in the request. So if anybody wants to request up, by all means.
Right. I do agree. You can't consent to a pregnancy. You assent to pregnancy.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Because you know that even with contraceptives and Plan B, there's a chance of it not working because it's not 100% effective. Right after my boyfriend puts that condom on, right, the slip, and I get into bed with him, I know that I'm consenting to SMEX, but I'm assenting to the possibility of pregnancy, right? And by her logic saying, well, you can't consent to a miscarriage, right? By her logic, because you consent to pregnancy, you have to consent to pregnancy, then you consent to all the things that could possibly happen to pregnancy, like miscarriages, like all this other stuff, other complications, and you consent by that, by her logic.
Well, so this is where I would just say she's confused and she doesn't understand what consent is. You're not consenting to an outcome. You're just assuming any and all outcomes of any given action that you consent to. It's like saying, well, I consented to coitus, but I didn't consent to getting gonosypha herpelades from whatever nasty piece of shit that you laid down with. Yet sure, you can't consent to that because that is a biological process. But you did assume that risk when you consented to the action, and this would apply in any instance.
Exactly, right? There's even if you don't consent to HIV, herpes, AIDS, whatever, if you sleep with someone unprotected or protected and you get the possibility of that thing happening, it happened because it's a biological process. You weren't careful.
Correct.
I added a few more things to the prompt.
That made me so mad when she said that we were rapists. I had to go off on her.
Well, I mean, their logic leads to whatever's on the prompt. So, I mean, they can claim all these things all they want.
Right. And sorry, Duncan, that I was telling you can't use that language, right? Because it will get the live taken down. And I really don't want his live taken down.
It's fine. It wouldn't get his live taken down. It could get my live access revoked, which is perfectly fine. I don't mind burning the
He can
account.
still be in
to match
trouble for
someone's
the stuff
energy.
that you say, right? Like, even if I don't say...
He can't.
Like, yes,
can't.
he can. Like, if
In no instance.
Oh.
I've been on this app for over 7 years. He can't.
Huh.
Well, that's the case then.
Okay, I've
That's why when
100%
people
had my live
are of
taken
this.
down for other people though.
Wait, hold on. Let's not get it. What are you saying?
Yeah, no, these instances where people come up and they just yell obscenities and racial slurs and all of that in an effort to try to get your live taken down, the only thing it does is gets a strike on their account. If this were true, every time that happened, your live would go down, and it doesn't.
Oh, I see. Well, they can report a lie for the prompts, so that's why I had to change one of them. Had a certain guy with a mustache on it. And
that one was so funny. We couldn't stop laughing. That was so bad.
Well, I mean, it's accurate. That's the most important part.
Oh, my Panda Express is going to be here soon.
Yeah, so I created a prompt similar to it. So instead of the mustache man, I put somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Hey Via, are you pro-abortion or pro-choice, pro-life or abolitionist?
Wait, hold on. What's your age? What was your age?
I am
Yeah, that's
21. Thank you for asking.
Yeah. Yeah. What's your what's your stance?
In my opinion, I believe abortion should be allowed to an extent. To an extent.
So pro-choice, basically.
Pretty much.
Well, hold up. She can mean something else. I do want to ask this. So can you morally justify the 95 to 98% of abortions?
I would like to see those statistics
Guttmacher.
go down a lot more because there is so many abortions going around.
Right, but these I'm talking about elective abortions. We're talking about the reasons, right? The 95 to 98% is going to be your elective abortions, like the father left, she just doesn't want it, financial, right? Those are all factors that fits into the elective, right?
Yeah.
So we're not talking about like how many abortions, right? We're talking about the elective reasons. So can you morally justify those?
Financially, no. You can give the baby up for adoption to a loving family.
I mean,
father left and she didn't want to raise a baby by her own. No. It was your choice to lay down with that man.
Right.
I am indeed surprised by your answer, but continue.
So, yeah. So, Vea, are you saying that the 95 to 98% aren't justified?
Oh, they are. They should go down a lot. Nobody should have an abortion just because of
that's why I'm asking.
Financial or like just because she's by herself. But like say Grape came into the
but that's going to be your lower. That's going to be your 0.1 to 5 point, like 0.1 to 0.5%. So is that your thing where you're saying, well, I have these exceptions, but the 95 to 98% are wrong?
Can you rephrase that for me?
Well, hold on. I'll clarify. Like, let's say there's a law, right? A bill being passed, right? You could ban the vast majority of abortions, but there would be exceptions for like Grape and medical exceptions and INSMES. Would you sign that bill?
Yes.
She's pro-life with
Pro-life then.
exceptions.
Okay, pro-life then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would continue the conversation, but we want to save.
Well, I would suggest we not do pro-life on pro-life because that splits the whole movement in half, right?
Well, I mean, we can continue this another time, right? But we want to save the boxes for people who agree with like most of the abortions, right?
Right.
I do have one question. The only question I came up for.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So, how does my body, my choice, lead to cannibal? Necro.
Yeah, I'll explain, right? So I'm not saying all pro-choicers who say this, but a lot of them, right, who argue this, right, they believe like bodily autonomy, how they define it, this should be a choice, should be allowed, right? So, cannibalism is a choice. You can choose not to or to engage in this, right? So if your whole justification for abortion is because it's a choice that you can do with your body, then it will also lead that cannibalism is permissible because this is also a choice that you can do with your body. That doesn't affect anyone else, really. I could also stipulate that a person literally consents to cutting a piece of their stomach off and feeding it to you. That would be cannibalism. Same thing with racial slurs, right? It's a person's body, and they can say whatever they want, right? Their mouth is a part of their body. They should be allowed to say racial slurs at people if you actually care about bodily autonomy, right? And so all these things follow. So that is why I put the prompt. I do not believe that bodily autonomy really exists as a concept, so I don't argue for this standpoint, but a lot of pro-choicers do. That's why.
Bodily autonomy is like the right to self-govern your body. If this is absolute, this means this would be an entitlement, morally speaking, in all scenarios. So this means any way I choose to self-govern my body would be an entitlement. Like I could say I could tattoo CP on my body, and you could have no objection to it because this would be an entitlement I am owed, morally speaking, if this is absolute. Obviously, I don't believe in absolutes. I think we hold limitations to things, including rights.
Yes.
Also, abortion has been linked massively with self-deletion, while pregnancy is the one with the lowest rates. In fact, it's lower than women who don't get pregnant ever, and abortion is higher than even miscarriages.
Well, yeah, I would just say that like speaking of self deletion, that's also like a bodily autonomy. If it's a person's body, what's your contention with self deletion, right? Or incest, right? If two brothers want to do this action because it's their body, what's your contention against that?
If assuming they're adults.
Yes, of course.
Well, thank you for answering my question.
Yeah.
That's all I had for you guys.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Right. I was just gonna say protect. I wouldn't do pro-life on pro-life because a lot of pro-lifers don't go against other pro-lifers because it kind of splits the movement.
Well, I mean, it depends what you mean by pro-life. Like, I the reason why I just want to save spots for other people.
Right.
I mean, I don't have any exceptions, right? But she's more in agreement.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mind doing that, but I think our time is spent elsewhere. I don't mind discussing, the brief exception, but I think we should move on.
Oh, you don't want to have a pro-lifer and an abolitionist come up here and fight over incrementalism?
Oh, sure, I don't mind. I don't mind.
I don't believe in incrementalism, so I mean.
I know that shit gets really messy when you have like.
Well,
that gets really.
Here's the
weird.
thing: if I break down my own stance, I have to accept certain things to it, and if I think that I'm not okay with any type of violation of human rights, I can't be for incrementalism because that means I'd be voting for a violation of somebody I think is deemed rights, even if I see a greater good for it, and I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with the violation regardless.
Wait, why doesn't Cozy join up? Why don't they request up? Abortion is a termination of a pregnancy. Yeah, that's a terrible definition.
Yeah, it's very broad, right? Because that would mean giving birth is abortion, right? It's the stopping of a pregnancy, and also a miscarriage would also fit into that, and like C-sections.
I want to talk to Rocky. Let me see.
No, do not entertain this guy. He doesn't even care.
I know he's a clown, but I just know I could like walk him in circles and make him look really bad.
He does a good job making himself look bad, so we don't have to entertain his nonsense.
Also, not only on the termination of a pregnancy thing being like C-sections included technically.
Yes.
It is also like what exactly is terminating a pregnancy do when the goal is to end the life inside? You know what I mean?
I think they should stipulate lethal termination because termination is so broad.
Yes.
Well, I mean, if I just define what I mean by abortion, they can't use this escape.
Yeah. All right. Any opposition request up?
Bruh. They keep saying no. Oh, they keep saying like random things down there, and they're like, "Nah, I'm not gonna request." You guys, the moment you admit that you can't come up here and talk, unless you're trying to be completely anon, you admit that you've lost and you cannot defend your position. I hope you know that.
They know.
Yeah, exactly.
Request up. I mean, I'm not sure we need to drop people. I'm not sure. Wait, is Infidel is Infidel even still here?
Infidel, are you
I don't
here?
think so.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to drop him. I mean, we kind of already talked to him.
Yeah.
He's opposition. I've seen him before. He's opposition.
Bill's an extremely intelligent guy,
Yeah. If two pro-choicers want to come up here and like defend each other, you guys can come up here at the same time.
I would do a 1v1 with people.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't
That
want
would be a better
chaos.
option, but just in case it makes them feel more comfortable, you know?
Yeah, if you guys want to switch over to somebody else, by all means, but just try to keep it 1v1. Of course, I'm the host. I can interject when needed. How do you guys like put like sources on the screen? Like, I don't know how to do that.
Just put it on your green screen. Just put it on your green screen and go on camera.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Oh.
What do you mean change? What?
Yeah, so like if somebody asked me for like a source, right? Like if
Yes, I would
somebody-
just screenshot something and put it as a green screen as a picture.
Oh, I see. That's how you do
Oh, do you want me to keep my My picture up a parasite?
Yeah, that would probably be for the best. If somebody needs a source or something. All right, any opposition? Okay, Kuzi, whatever your name is, request up. I sent you an invite. You like to yap in the comments.
Okay. I'll just keep it up.
All right. You like to yap in the comments. If you don't join in the next few minutes, you're going to get muted.
Oh,
There's no freedom of speech in here.
Dictatorship.
being held hostage.
Yeah. All right, still waiting for opposition.
Look, another spot.
They're just ignoring my request. Looks like they can't defend their stance. So confident in your opinions, yet you can't defend them.
I'm really hungry.
Yeah. Yeah, you're gonna join or you're gonna get muted. Take your
Not Margaret, what's your position?
No, just mute him. Just mute it. Don't keep on telling him if you don't request join, right? If his freedom of speech is already taken away from him, he won't have a choice. It's like saying, it's like telling your kid, I'm gonna spank you if you're not listening or something. And they're like, you're not gonna spank me because it's an empty promise.
Not Margaret,
Damn.
what's your position?
I don't know if I would. I guess I can't.
Oh,
There's a lot
somebody
of
left.
debate about being called an abolitionist because apparently you need to be like Protestant or believe in certain things. So I guess I can't call myself an abolitionist. I would just say
Well,
I'm
I'm-
pro-life.
Yeah, be
I'm
careful.
converting to Catholic and I call myself an abolitionist.
No,
I don't
no,
care about the
no.
specific.
No, Shadow, don't do that because if you encounter people like Alex the abolitionist, they're gonna jump on you. They do
That's
not.
fine.
They do not like when people use that title.
I don't care. It's
I
what
don't
I
get
am.
that though. Like, how do you gatekeep the term abolitionist? Like that,
I
like
don't know. You have to ask them.
They
that
can't force
bothers
me to stop using it.
Right. Like
If-
I'm an Orthodox Christian, right? And I consider myself an abolitionist.
They won't claim you. Oh no.
Apostolic.
No, I claim myself, okay, buddy?
Well,
like,
I mean,
not
no-
everyone claims me, okay?
I mean-
like,
I
I'm
mean-
an MRA. Some MRAs disagree with me. Oh no, some MRAs don't claim me. The
Is it
same with other
MRA?
groups, bruh.
Well, Norman abolitionist.
What is an MRA?
A men's rights activist.
Oh.
The what?
Men's rights activist.
Oh, okay.
W.
I just want to know why our mental health month was hijacked.
Literally.
Well, I think of it like
I think those things perfectly coincide if you think about
Mm-hmm.
it.
It's mostly the trans women, and it's mostly the gay men. There you go, Men's Mental Health Month.
Wait, I'm not sure you could say. Wait, can you say the GAY word? I'm not sure.
No.
That was me. My bad.
You're good. It probably won't.
Oh, you're not allowed to say that. I said that.
Yeah,
loud.
I don't know. I guess I don't really know.
Confusing.
I'm extra careful about saying certain things. Like I just try to play it safe. Unless the host like just straight up doesn't care. Like
Well, in my life, I just don't care. I say anything.
I have a threshold. There's like some things you can't say.
Bubble, stop spoiling me.
Well, I mean, if you go on Twitter and you were to talk, you wouldn't have to worry about all this stuff because
Oh.
people can say the most wild stuff on there. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, that's why I'm gonna make a Twitter account. I'm gonna use the prompts, the mustache man prompt, and there's something you can do about that.
Yes. But if you were to go on Twitter, you can't have image prompts there. You have to have name prompts.
Oh.
I've either been a host or a co-host on hundreds of Twitter spaces. So
This might get some engagement. This is the one I had to edit, so it had the mustache man and another symbol, so I had to change it to this one.
Yeah.
Do you want to know something crazy? I never liked orange chicken, and I tried it one day because I always try food, and then if I don't like it, I don't like it. I tried orange chicken, and I really liked orange chicken.
All right.
Orange chicken is delicious.
Hibachi.
What?
I really want hibachi.
Mm-hmm.
That one dude said he was coming back. I can't remember his name though.
Yeah, I can't. Any opposition? Any opposition? Yeah, I'm gonna do another live later tonight. I just wanted to do one earlier in the afternoon to see how it goes.
Hey,
I was.
Did I fall asleep in your live a couple days ago?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
I said my age and I went back to bed.
Yeah, I was live yesterday for earlier this morning for 8 hours, and I shut it off at like 5 a.m.
Your live last night was crazy. That shit was going off.
Yeah, there's like 100 people at one point, like 200 people at one point.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, I think it was the prompts that got people to engage.
Definitely. Because if you hover over it and then you just see the prompt and you're not like in front of the prompt and they can just see the entire thing, it's a lot easier.
All right.
You always bring me up here.
That's how I found you guys actually. I was looking specifically for debates. Cause getting kicked off of the Ding Live permanently on my other name.
Oh.
Cause he couldn't handle the truth. I won. Anyway, sorry. I was specifically looking around, I was like, abortion one. So I was like, cool. There's actually a lot more pro-lifers or abolitionists who argue or set up debate spaces, so it's actually pretty cool.
Be right back. I got summoned to an interesting one.
Elizabeth. What? Tanya was talking about that, how Planned Parenthood is racist.
It is.
Oh, they are, yeah.
Because you only see it in low-income areas.
Well, it was also designed off of that way, too.
Women.
Yeah, the founder of Planned Parenthood was a known eugenicist.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's on a prompt. They support it and they don't know it. Some of them do know it and support it anyways.
They're like, well, they've denounced that now. It's like, really? What business practices have they changed? Do they have a different business model? Is anything else different other than just claiming that they denounce it? No? Okay.
Because 1 in 2 black babies are aborted in New York, for example.
Yeah, in 2020, more were unalive through abortion than born. That's how crazy it is.
Yeah.
That's fucked.
All right, so any opposition? Request up.
I also hate when people are like, I don't know if I can fully talk about that, though, because of, TikTok.
I'm gonna try to do these debates also on YouTube as well. I have a YouTube channel. It's in the bio. All these are being recorded and put on YouTube, so you can rewatch them.
Yeah. W. I do have to leave in 10 to 20 minutes, though.
All right, that's
No
fine.
problem. But yeah, I did fall asleep in your live. Somebody asked my age, and I fell back to sleep.
Yeah. I wanted to do one earlier today so people could join. Because
Right.
I don't expect people to be up at 5 a.m. in the morning.
And we what was it? And I think I came back from work. I think it was my training. And I came back from training.
All right. Oh, how'd it go?
Alright, it's okay. Not my first restaurant job.
Oh.
I used to work at Chili's.
Oh, nice. I've never actually been there. I was thinking about going there the other day.
And they're okay. Not my favorite establishment.
What do they have? Seafood? What do they offer?
It's mostly meat, burgers, salads, pastas.
Oh, I see.
They got chicken, What am I munching on? Panda Express.
Oh, nice. Only had that one time. All right. Any opposition requests out? Let me see who's in the request. Okay, let me request that. All right. Any opposition? I may have to do a restart. I'm not sure.
Protect. This might sound mildly racist, but I thought you were a white guy the first time I talked to you.
No, I get that a lot. I mean, it's all my videos are my TikTok. I only made like 3 of them.
Like I picture him as like a scrawny, like nerdy white guy with glasses.
No.
Like sometimes I picture like the people I talk to and how they look, and then when I finally realize what they look like, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
I
It's
remember.
crazy. It's crazy when you see them on camera or something. It's like I was at the rally. I met Christina and Andy. Very nice experience.
Right, and I like when I talk to people, I picture what they look like. Like
Bless you.
Sorry. Thank you.
I pictured Fire Lord as like a chubby, like young guy. He doesn't sound older. He sounds young.
Hey, I'm gonna head out. I'll see if your live is open later, okay?
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna redo another one later tonight.
Protect. Do you want me to start a live? See if I can get people in there. I got quite a bit of people in there.
I mean, I don't really mind. I'm gonna continue. I mean, I might restart. Probably might
Give it a
go.
break.
Yeah.
That way people can either like refresh or they can relax. Cause it's like energy drains, but also like it is part of the workday right now, so if you wait a bit, it'll be after like work for a lot of
Yeah.
people.
Yeah,
It'll
definitely.
be easier to get people in.
Yeah, I've been going live since like noon, so I think it might be a good spot to end. I don't see anyone else joining. Wait, hold on. We got someone in the request.
Pro-lifers should put a gun in their mouths and fucking paint their bathrooms with
Yeah,
a gray.
yeah, you're getting blocked. Self-deletion apologist. Yeah, what? A,
Pro-choice.
yeah, what a simp. What a simp.
Oh my god. Bro.
Anyway, man that just got kicked out, you are a simp. Get help. Seek help, please.
Oh my god.
Yeah, Papa.
Has she hit you up yet, bro? Has she hit you up yet?
Yeah, wow, Papa
For
mustache.
telling pro-lifers to self-delete themselves, has she hit you up yet? Or he, if you swing that way.
Goodbye, block button, goodbye.
Go back to your Discord, kitten.
Anyway, I'm gonna head out now.
Yeah, Papa
I
Red
will
Skull
swing by
isn't so
later.
loud. Yeah.
Protect, DM me, or Kenna if you want to too, if you remember. Either one of you, please DM me if you can, if you hop in another live, and I'll see if it's still open when I hop back on. Anyway, bye.
Right, and I start work at 4 o'clock. It's like 2:30.
Yeah. I think this would be a good time to conclude. I'll probably be back in like 2 hours, maybe 3 hours, 2 or 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
All right, sounds good. May or may not be on, but
Right, yeah, I'm gonna be at work until 9.
Right. Like I said, these videos are my bio, so if you missed anything, you can rewatch them. I'm gonna be going live a few hours from now with a new prompt. So thank you guys for coming. I'll be ending the live. Thank you.